I have transmigrated into the Chu Han era, now as the overlord, Xiang Yu. I had planned to take Yuji and retire to the mountains for the rest of our days. Yet, I never expected that I would find myself here, and at such a critical moment, with my Chu army facing imminent collapse, and the overlord eventual end at Wuzhong. Time is running out. Before I could ponder further, a scout arrived, racing on horseback. Report, your king. General Zhang Limo has completed his rearguard duty. However, he is now surrounded by Han Xin within 5 miles. Lu Bang, Peng Yu, Ying Biyu, and the rest of those scoundrels like Lu Jia are closing in one after another. As a person from the future, you clearly realize what I am about to face. I have very few choices left now. Submission to Lu Bang, in hopes that he treats my people of Jiangdong with mercy. But once Lu Bang becomes emperor, he would purge even his greatest generals like Han Xin and Peng Yu one by one. Not to mention me, his mortal enemy. The second option is to head directly to the king of Qi, Han Xin, but for him, I would eventually become a discarded hunting dog, then convince him to join me in revolting against Lu Bang. Yet upon closer thought, I must abandon that notion. Although Han Xin is a military genius, he is simultaneously a political idiot. He fails to grasp why Lu Bang would have him killed. Both paths seem appealing on the surface, yet they mask a hidden, murderous intent. At this moment, you decide to cast aside fantasy and choose to fight. The northern wind sweeps by, bringing a chill and pulling your thoughts back to reality. HMPH, Han Xin, oh Han Xin. Your military strategy is indeed impressive, but for all your calculated plans, you never calculated that I, Xiang Yu, would be the greatest variable. Looking at the 10,000 elite cavalry selected by Shang Zhuang, I point the overlord halberd toward the heavens. March, follow me to rescue our brothers in arms. Rescue our brothers in arms. The 10,000 elite riders roar in unison, their fighting spirit surging. Within a mountain valley, 5 miles away, Qi Army General Guan Ying leads over 30,000 troops. They have surrounded the 6,000-strong Chu force led by General Zhang Limo, leaving them no space to breathe. Thinking of the reward for capturing Zhang Limo alive, Guan Ying is fired up. HMPH, Zhang Limo. You are now firmly within our grip. If you know what is good for you, kneel and surrender immediately. Otherwise, this day next year will be your anniversary of death. Kneel and surrender. Zhang Limo shows no hint of fear as he laughs aloud. I, General Zheng Li, would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. My head is right here. If you have the ability, come and take it. The recent bribery incident. Shang Yu no longer trusts you. Since that is the case, why bother throwing your life away for him? Guan Ying, do not waste your breath. I, General Zheng Li, was born the Overlord man, and I will remain his ghost even in death. With that, Zheng Limo fiercely kicks his horse's flank. He thrusts his cloud shadow spear forward, targeting Guan Ying's face directly. Guan Ying reacts quickly, shifting aside to dodge, while swinging his steel broadsword to strike at Zheng Limo's left shoulder. A sharp, explosive clang rings out, as sparks fly in all directions. Guan Ying swiftly retracts and strikes again, forcing Zheng Limo to move defensively. The two fight faster and more ferociously with every move. After over 30 bouts of engagement, Guan Ying starts to run out of steam, and is pushed back by Zhang Limo's overwhelming strength. Guan Ying, did you not vow to claim my life? Give it your best shot. Zhang Limo roars with full intensity, and his cloud shadow spear violently slams into the steel broadsword. The immense, vibrating force transmits through the iron and into Guan Ying's body. Guan Ying trembled uncontrollably. He felt as if his very organs were being shredded by a whip, soaked in freezing water. Zhang Limo seized the moment to press his advantage. His cloud shadow spear struck forward in a rapid, piercing onslaught, as if it could shatter gold and stone. Under this crushing pressure, shame flashed across Guan Ying's face. With a furious roar, he channeled all his strength into his arms. He swung his broadsword violently, crashing down upon the tip of the cloud shadow spear. The fierce clash between weapon and spear sent a jolt of shock through Guan Ying's heart. Despite his full force strike, he could not push back the spear even an inch. Zhang Limo's eyes flashed with lethal intensity as he rammed the spear into the steel broadsword. A shower of sparks erupted against Guan Ying's armor. Guan Ying's face turned deathly pale as his armor fractured. A spray of fresh blood was violently exposed to the air. The agony pierced him. Guan Ying grew taut, his expression grim. He was no reckless fool. He decisively retreated toward his own formation, signaling his men to surround them. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Though the Chu army fought with unmatched valor, they were heavily outnumbered. They soon found themselves trapped in a desperate struggle. Zhang Limo, in particular, not only was he swarmed by nearly a dozen Qi commanders, but he also had to dodge the constant barrage of sneak arrow attacks from Guan Ying. His life was hanging by a thread. At that moment, on the outskirts of Luoyan Ridge, taking with you 10,000 elite cavalry, you arrived in silence, watching Zhang Limo fight with such reckless disregard for his own life. Shang Zhuang grew tense. Brother King, let us lead our troops and strike across at once. You shook your head slightly. The Qi army outnumbers us threefold. Saving them is easy. The real challenge is wiping out all 30,000 Qi troops in one go. After you quickly arranged your tactical formation, Xiang Zhuang led 3,000 elite cavalry to disperse and deploy in secret. You commanded the remaining 7,000 elite cavalry to begin the charge into the mountain pass. The thunderous sound of heavy hooves suddenly echoed through the air. Both the Qi and Chu armies within the pass looked toward the source of the sound. When they saw the purple overlord halberd, which signified the presence of Shang Yu, Zhang Limo and his Chu troops were revitalized. The spirit of battle surged within them once again. In contrast, the Qi army fell into panic and disarray. Guan Ying stared fixedly at you, his face filled with disbelief. How can this be? Shang Yu should not be here. Just as Guan Ying was racking his brains in confusion, a Qi general beside him warned in alarm. General Guan Ying, we have been surrounded. Guan Ying turned, and in an instant of sheer terror, he spotted a purple figure moving with astonishing speed streaking toward them. Shang Yu. Guan Ying's heart trembled once more. Shang Yu's legendary prowess was enough to strike fear into the heart of any warrior of this age. Guan Ying was no exception. The moment he saw you, his first instinct was to flee. Though Guan Ying's warhorse was impressive, it was no match for Wu Ya. By the time he recovered his senses, it was too late to even turn his head. He felt a sharp pain in his throat. A glint of sheer resentment burned in his eyes. Hot blood began to erupt like a volcanic crater. You reached out, caught the head of Guan Ying, and roared loudly. Guan Ying is dead. Will you soldiers surrender now or die? The booming command rang out like a thunderclap. Many Qi soldiers immediately dropped their weapons and knelt to beg for mercy. Witnessing this scene, the diehard fanatics in the Qi army boiled with rage and began slaughtering their own soldiers to restore order by fear. This, however, served only to ignite your fury. You spurred your horse, leapt, and swung the overlord halberd with savage momentum. A flash of cold light swept by. With your raw strength, combined with the razor-sharp blade of the overlord halberd, dozens of the Qi fanatics collapsed to the ground in agonizing cries. A spark of indescribable excitement shimmered in your eyes. The blood within me boils with fervor. So this is how magnificent it feels to gallop across the battlefield. A moment later, the surviving soldiers of the Qi army on the battlefield all knelt down. Spare us, your overlord. We surrender. As the cries for mercy rang out one by one, your reason overcame your impulse. You stayed your hand, stopping the overlord halberd in midair. Just at that moment, Zhang Limo arrived, leading over 1,000 remnants of the Chu army. Respectfully, they knelt down. Your humble general kneels before you, my king. I am deeply grateful for your king's life-saving grace. You looked at the battered yet resolute Chu remnants. A flicker of admiration and emotion flashed in your eyes. Rise, my brothers. I am honored to have you all follow me to the death. I have no regrets in this life. Upon hearing your words, the eyes of the Chu soldiers, led by General Zheng Li, grew moist. A warm current surged through their hearts. A soldier will die for one who truly understands him. General Zheng Li Mo, I wronged you before, falling for Chen Ping's cunning scheme. Pray, do not hold it in your heart. I understand, my king. This is not your fault. Blame only the enemy for their treacherous and deceitful tricks. There is no more to say on that matter. You only need remember this. As long as you do not betray me, I shall never betray you. Rest assured, my king. In life, I serve only your king, and in death, I shall remain your loyal spirit. Before Zhang Li Mo could finish his sentence, Shang Zhuang arrived on horseback, galloping in haste. He rushed to report to you. Brother King, reports from our scouts have just arrived. The main force of the Qi army is less than 20 miles away. You nodded, your expression solemn. This is no place to linger. We must retreat at once. Shang Zhuang glanced at the captured Qi soldiers and asked, Brother King, how should we dispose of these prisoners? Should it be done following the old rules? Speaking of which, Shang Zhuang made a throat-slitting gesture. You shook your head slightly. Brother Zhuang, lead the men and filter them. Set free all those who are not seriously wounded. 20 miles away, over 300,000 of the Qi army were marching relentlessly, rushing toward this battlefield. At the head of the formation, beneath the banner bearing the surname Han, a young man was gazing intently into the distance. He is none other than Han Xin, the king of Qi, hailed as the god of war. Beside Han Xin, a middle-aged man followed closely. As Han Xin withdrew his gaze from the distance, he noticed a flash of concern on the face of the middle-aged man and could not help but ask, General Li Zuash, what is it that troubles you? Li Zuash snapped back to reality and replied, My king, there has been no news from General Guan Ying for a long time. I fear they may have met with some unforeseen disaster. General Guan Ying is well versed in strategies and possesses possesses great combat strength, commanding an army of 30,000. Dealing with a mere few thousand remnants of the Chu army should be child's play. Your humble servant is worried that Xiang Yu might come to their rescue personally. General Guan Ying can certainly hold his own against Zhang Limo, but he is by no means a match for Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu, it is highly unlikely that he would intervene. Xiang Yu is deeply suspicious this time, and he detests betrayal the most. Given that there are suspicions of treason surrounding Zhang Limo, he surely would not lead his troops to save him. Set your mind at ease, General Li Zuosh. If Xiang Yu had not fled to Gaixia, it might be different, but once he fled to Gaixia, he was as good as dead. Before he could finish speaking, a rider arrived on a speeding horse. Reporting to my king, when General Guan Ying surrounded the remnants of Zhang Limo's force, they were ambushed by the cavalry led by Xiang Yu. General Guan Ying was killed in action right on the spot. Over 30,000 of our troops have either fallen or defected. That news is too sudden. Han Xin felt a jolt in his heart. His face was filled with disbelief. To think that Xiang Yu actually made a move. Li Zuosh was also quite shaken. He never expected that his casual speculation would actually come true. They exchanged a look and reached a silent decision to rush to that battlefield immediately and see exactly what was happening. An hour later, at an unnamed mountain, Han Xin and Li Zuosh paced in circles, then looked at each other in silence. Time unbeknownst drifted by. Han Xin let out a soft sigh. It seems I have underestimated Xiang Yu. Li Zuosh nodded in agreement. Xiang Yu's tactics this time are indeed different from the past. He risked everything to rescue Zhang Limo. That is a bold masterstroke to win the hearts of his men. Moreover, he captured nearly 30,000 soldiers, and instead of his usual habit of slaughter, he took the trouble to bring them back. There must be a calculation behind this. I fear we must exercise more caution from now on. But Han Xin just shook his head dismissively. I admit I underestimated Xiang Yu this time, but he is not as formidable as you believe. Xiang Yu's arrogant, suspicious, and belligerent nature is not something that can be changed in a day or two. Li Zuosh knew Han Xin was stubborn, and seeing his confidence, chose not to persuade him further. Back at the Chu army camp, Xiang Yu returned with his troops. The entire army was filled with jubilation. Have you heard? Our king not only captured nearly 30,000 Qi soldiers, but also slew the Qi general Guan Ying. That jerk Guan Ying finally got his due. During the Battle of Chenxia, that guy chased us the hardest. Inside the main headquarters, Zhang Limo respectfully reported, My king, the tasks you entrusted to me have been completed. Our troops are gradually changing their perspective on this battle. Confidence and morale are beginning to surge. You nodded in satisfaction. General Zhang Li, you have worked hard. Go back and get a good rest. Once you have recovered, you shall charge into battle with me again. Zhang Limo bowed respectfully and took his leave. The biggest threat to the Chu army is not the lack of men or grain, nor is it an imminent siege, but rather the plummeting morale and will to fight as the situation worsens. An army with shattered spirits is doomed to defeat. Because I clearly understood this, the first thing I addressed after crossing over was the issue of restoring the morale of the Chu army. Now that morale is on the rise, the next thing that needs consideration is the matter of dealing with that traitor, Shang Bo. As you pondered this, your exhausted body could no longer hold on. Leaning on the table, you drifted into a deep sleep. Time drifted by. You woke up feeling hungry. My king, you are awake. A voice rang out by your ear, instantly snapping your sleepy mind to clarity. You could not help but look at the owner of the voice. At the moment your eyes met, you felt your mind go blank. An indescribable beauty almost stopped your heart from beating. A tremor from deep within your soul, letting the long-stilled lake of your heart, moved by a woman's grace, erupt in turbulent waves. My king, are you all right? Yuji looked at you with suspicion. After the initial shock, you quickly regained your senses. To avoid embarrassment, you shifted the topic. Yuji, I am a bit hungry. Could you have someone bring some food over? Yuji replied gently. Your king has finished. Let the servants bring it away. After the attendants arranged the wine and dishes, Yuji softly proposed. Does your king require music and dance to lift your spirits? Her brief hesitation was a polite refusal. That is not necessary. After I finish my meal, I must discuss urgent matters with my generals. Yuji gave a slight start, but she quickly recovered. Very well, I shall withdraw first. I felt a glimmer of sorrow emanating from Yuji. You were tempted to call out to her. However, even a great beauty must be alive to be enjoyed. At that moment, in the Qi army camp, at the head, Han Xin tapped his fingers softly on the table and asked coolly, Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the upcoming battle? The situation is critical. The generals pondered deeply, not rushing to answer. After a while, General Kang Shi, losing patience, spoke up with a bold voice. Your king, our coalition forces have now reached the battlefield. 70,000 troops against 100,000 of the Chu army. A single blow should be enough to wipe out the Chu forces entirely. Kang Shi expressed his bravado, but few other generals echoed his sentiment, because in their hearts, all the generals were clear. Do not let Shang Yu's current disadvantage deceive you. He is a man who often pulls off miracles, defeating the superior with the few. Seeing the silence among his generals, Han Xin turned to ask Cao Shen. General Cao Shen, how do you view this matter? Cao Shen cupped his hands in respect toward Han Xin and answered clearly. Your king, the Chu army is fierce and excels in warfare. Once cornered, they fight like wolves and tigers. Our Qi troops have fought many exhausting battles and are weary in both body and mind. Given this, perhaps our army should rest for a few days. Let the forces of Peng Yu, Ying Biyu, Lu Jia, and Zhou Yin take the lead. Then we shall strike with the power of lightning to secure the final victory. Han Xin did not approve of this suggestion, because he had an agreement with Liu Bang. In this battle, the Qi army must be the absolute main force. Han Xin's silence left the generals in the tent, unable to guess his true intent. They too fell silent. At that moment, Li Zuosh stepped forward slowly. Your king, your command of troops is like divine guidance. Surely you must already have a plan in your mind. Why not share it, so we may admire your wisdom? A smile bloomed on Han Xin's face as he pointed to the map in the center of the tent. With absolute confidence, he replied, I intend to set a trap on the path toward Wuzhong before the battle at Gaixia. I will lay down a 10-sided ambush. If the Chu army proceeds to retreat south, they will be entirely annihilated. As soon as Han Xin spoke these words, the tent erupted in murmurs. Some felt a sense of shocking joy. At that moment, Li Zuosh asked in a coordinated, knowing tone, I wonder how your king plans to organize this 10-sided ambush. Han Xin laughed and spoke calmly. For the first side, I plan to send a great general, leading 5,000 elite troops to the upper reaches of the Tuo River to build a dam and block the water. Once the Chu army passes, we shall release the water to drown them. For the second side, I plan to send a great general, leading 10,000 elite troops to Luoyan Ridge. Once the Chu army passes, we shall rain down boulders and thunder wood. For the third side, I plan to send a great general, leading 5,000 elite soldiers to lie in ambush outside Fengai Forest. Once the Chu army passes, we shall immediately set the forest ablaze. For the 10th side, I plan to send a great general, leading 20,000 elite cavalry to take the center position, ready at all times to reinforce every unit. After listening to Han Xin's explanation, all the generals in the tent were in total agreement. Brilliant, simply brilliant, Li Zuosh exclaimed in admiration. Your king's command of strategy is truly divine. It is truly a sight to behold. With this 10-sided ambush, if the Chu army does not flee back to Jiangdong, that is one thing. But if they insist on fleeing to Jiangdong, they will surely find no place to be buried. Shang Yu truly is a hero of his age. It is a pity that he missed his chance with my king. Perhaps this was simply his fate. Deep down, Han Xin held a grudge against Shang Yu. Back then, he had offered his loyalty with all his heart, yet he was cast aside like a worn-out shoe. The other generals echoed his sentiments in unison. For a moment, sounds of approval filled the entire tent. Qian Tong, who had been sitting with his eyes closed, suddenly spoke up. My king, you have just laid out the strategy to deal with the Chu army if they attempt to escape. But if the Chu army does not flee and chooses to fight you to the bitter end, what then? Qian Tong's question struck like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. In truth, Han Xin had already contemplated this very question. Therefore, he replied calmly and steadily. A well-posed question, Mr. Qian Tong. If Shang Yu is determined to fight me to the death, then I shall face him in that final battle. Qian Tong asked with an intrigued smile. My king, about this battle to the death, how do you plan to carry it out? The terrain of Gaixia is vast and perfect for large-scale maneuvers. I intend to secretly assemble an elite core force from our main army. When engaging Shang Yu, we shall fight while retreating, to lure Shang Yu and his elite troops into pursuing us. According to my king's arrangement, should Shang Yu lead his forces against our central elite, he will certainly find it difficult to break through in a short time. I wonder, where does my king intend to strike the killing blow? I plan to set 2 cavalry units on the flanks of our main army. Once the Chu army's battle lines are overextended, we will launch a thunderous assault on their center, cutting the Chu formation in 2. My king, that maneuver is truly ingenious. Once the Chu army is split in 2, Shang Yu will surely panic and attempt to rescue them. That is when my king can strike and finish them off. Victory over the Chu army will be inevitable. The generals in the tent listened to the exchange between Han Xin and Qian Tong, their eyes widening in sudden realization, faces filled with intense surprise and admiration. Han Xin was very satisfied with their reaction. He stood up slowly. General Kang Shi, are you present? I am, my king. Kang Shi stepped forward and answered loudly. In tomorrow's battle, you shall lead 20,000 elite cavalry and lie in ambush on the left flank. General Chen He, are you present? In tomorrow's battle, you shall lead 20,000 elite cavalry and lie in ambush on the right flank. General Cao Shen, General Li Zuosh, I order you to select our finest soldiers to form our central command. In tomorrow's battle, you will join me to properly face that brute, Shang Yu. We obey, my king, with all of you assisting me. Tomorrow's battle will undoubtedly be a resounding victory. For some reason, upon hearing the phrase, resounding victory, Qian Tong suddenly felt the cheering of the room to be jarring. To many, a resounding victory might be a great merit, but in Qian Tong's eyes, for Han Xin, it was the final straw that would break the camel's back, because he had another title, that of having merit so great it overshadowed the master. After the meeting, the generals filed out of Han Xin's central command tent. Only Qian Tong remained behind. Han Xin asked, with a smile of mild curiosity, Mr. Qian Tong, is there something further? Qian Tong wore a somber expression as he asked directly, My king, are you aware that you are nearing your doom? Nearing my doom, Mr. Qian Tong, do not trifle with me. The smile on Han Xin's face froze instantly. Trifle. Qian Tong shook his head slightly and said solemnly, My king, your humble servant does not trifle with you. In the coming battle, if you do not leave Shang Yu and his remnant forces a way out, I fear your own life will soon be in peril. HMPH, you are simply talking nonsense. To execute Shang Yu and annihilate the Chu army, that would be a monumental achievement. How could I have let this slip? Such a monumental achievement. It should be called a monumental disaster instead. Once the king slays Han Xin and wipes out the Chu army, would not your achievements overshadow the master? And what if they do? The king of Han is a wise and benevolent ruler. Surely he would have the capacity to tolerate others. A benevolent ruler, perhaps. But the king of Han is certainly not one to be trifled with. If the king's achievements cover the master's, the king of Han will be quick to clean house. Han Xin's face darkened at Mr. Qian Tong's words. Why do you still harbor such prejudices against the king of Han? Back when Han Xin pacified the state of Qi, his prestige reached its peak. Qian Tong knew it clearly in his heart. In the struggle between Chu and Han, whichever side Han Xin supports will emerge victorious. Whichever side he aids, that side shall win. Therefore, Qian Tong urged Han Xin to betray Liu Bang and establish himself as a separate power, to divide the world into three parts between Liu Bang, himself, and Shang Yu. But Han Xin remained grateful for the trust Liu Bang had placed in him, and was unwilling to betray him. At that time, Qian Tong had tried to persuade him by arguing that Liu Bang would eventually discard him once his use had passed, and advised Han Xin to petition Liu Bang, demanding to be made the acting king of Qi to test Liu Bang's intentions. However, the final outcome of that matter greatly exceeded Qian Tong's expectations. Because of the counsel of Zhang Liang and Chen Ping, Liu Bang not only refrained from reprimanding Han Xin, but even appointed him as the legitimate king of Qi. This result not only made Han Xin dismiss all suspicion of Liu Bang, but also caused him to grow resentful towards Qian Tong, believing that Qian Tong held bias against the king of Han. Qian Tong smiled bitterly. My king, this is not bias. For the sake of preserving his own life, the king of Han would even push his own flesh and blood off a chariot. A man so cold-blooded and ruthless. How could he ever share prosperity with others? How could he ever be willing to share the world with you? My king, do wake up. The king of Han is nothing but a street-smart scoundrel. There is nothing under the sun of which he is not capable. Enough. Han Xin waved his hand, admonishing him. These are all groundless rumors. You should know that the king of Han's benevolence is known to all under heaven. Countless people in Guanzhong have pledged their lives for him. The king of Han has shown me nothing but great favor. How could I ever betray him? Qian Tong's expression turned grim. My king, are these your true thoughts? Han Xin remained silent. After a long while, he replied in a deep voice. Mr. Qian Tong, do not try to persuade me to betray the king of Han again. Otherwise, do not blame me for being heartless. Your humble servant understands. Qian Tong said nothing more. In his heart, his disappointment in Han Xin had reached its zenith. In his view, Han Xin's military brilliance was certainly unrivaled in the world, but his political insight was truly beyond pathetic. Han Xin could not even see what kind of man Liu Bang truly was, and yet he dared to dream of sharing the world with him. This is nothing short of walking the path to one's own grave. At the Han army camp in Guling, inside the main tent of Liu Bang, the lamps were burning bright. Liu Bang, Zhang Liang, and Chen Ping were deep in discussion. Holding the report Cao Shen had sent, Liu Bang sighed softly. Mr. Zhang Liang, Mr. Chen Ping, Han Xin has just arrived at the Gaixia battlefield with his army, and he is already preparing to exploit Shang Yu's penchant for leading elite troops into battle to crush the Chu army. He has even set up an ambush on all sides, intending to wipe out the Chu army in one fell swoop. This is truly something to behold. Zhang Liang and Chen Ping were both astute men. How could they not hear the bitterness and jealousy in Liu Bang's words, which, when you think about it, made perfect sense? Liu Bang personally led 200,000 Han troops in pursuit of my 100,000 Chu soldiers. Yet you turned the tables and dealt him a crushing defeat. He was on the brink of total annihilation. But then there is Han Xin. He led 400,000 Qi troops and had just arrived on the battlefield when he unleashed a masterful strategy, prepared to swallow you and your 100,000 soldiers whole. If Han Xin truly achieves such a legendary victory, then, by comparison, Liu Bang is the one who will truly reap the greatest rewards. But the real crux of the matter is, with Han Xin's crushing blow to the Chu army, a much thornier problem emerges. It is that Liu Bang does not know how to reward Han Xin appropriately. As things stand, Han Xin is already the king of Qi, second only to the emperor in power. If he achieves even greater, unparalleled feats, how is Liu Bang then to reward him? Could it be that Liu Bang should proclaim Han Xin as the emperor? If Han Xin becomes the emperor, would not Liu Bang then be reduced to his subject? Observing Liu Bang's eyes narrow slightly, Zhang Liang understood that Liu Bang was already harboring murderous intent toward Han Xin. Considering it from Liu Bang's perspective, Zhang Liang did not find his jealousy of Han Xin to be entirely wrong. After all, two tigers cannot share one mountain. A servant's merits should never overshadow his master's. However, Zhang Liang believed it was not yet the right time to purge the king of Qi, Han Xin. Thus he advised him, "Your king, the decisive battle has not yet begun. Han Xin's strategies are indeed brilliant, but they are subject to variables. Before Shang Yu is completely defeated, your king must never undermine your own foundations." Chen Ping immediately grasped this principle, and quickly chimed in with his support. "Your king, Mr. Zhang Liang's words are sound. Right now, Shang Yu is your most formidable enemy. As long as we can eliminate this mortal enemy, what harm is there in letting Han Xin grow powerful for a while? Han Xin is a master of military affairs, but he lacks political acumen. If you wish to deal with him later, it will be child's play. Once Shang Yu is gone, your king will be the rightful sovereign of the realm, holding ultimate moral authority. Even if Han Xin dared to rebel, few would be willing to follow him. Take General Cao Shen as an example. He has served alongside Han Xin for years. They support each other in times of need, sharing the same fate. Yet when it comes to the question of righteousness, he remains loyal to your king. Whenever there is news from Han Xin's side, he immediately sends word over. Your king's benevolence reaches the four corners of the earth, in the hearts of the people and the generals alike. You are the great hero who stood against the tyranny of Qin and Chu, and you are the wise monarch they truly desire. He who wins the hearts of the people wins the world. You are the only one fit to govern the world. No one else like Han Xin, Heng Yu, or Ying Biyu can ever compare. Chen Ping's words made Liu Bang nod repeatedly. He also understood that it was not the time to dispose of Han Xin yet, even though his deep suspicions still kept him restless. Now, having listened to the counsel of Zhang Liang and Chen Ping, Liu Bang's worries were significantly eased. He temporarily cast aside his murderous intent toward Han Xin, and patiently awaited the arrival of the decisive battle between Chu and Han at the Chu army camp, within the main military tent. You, having just finished your evening meal, were summoning your civil and military officials to discuss strategy. You watched as General Ji Biyu, General Zhang Limo, General Yu Ziki, Shang Zhuang, General Huan Chu, and General Wu Shi, and other core members of the Chu army successively entered the tent. You clenched your fists tightly, the fire of battle surging within your heart. Everyone, stand in your assigned positions. Speak your mind clearly and aloud. Gentlemen, my army has now reached Gaixia. What follows? Shall we continue our retreat to Wuzhong, or shall we engage the enemy in a final, decisive battle? I invite you all to speak your piece. Recalling the instructions of Mr. Zhang Liang, Shangbo spoke up first. Your king, the rebels are encroaching upon us from all directions. To avoid becoming fish in a barrel, it is most prudent that our army withdraw swiftly to Wuzhong. This proposal from Uncle Bo carries some weight. If this were before today, the generals might have voiced their agreement, for at that time, our morale was at its lowest ebb. But now, it is different. The Chu army has just crushed 30,000 of the Qi army. Morale throughout the entire camp has soared significantly. We are fully capable of engaging the enemy in battle. Because of this, General Ji Biyu, Shang Zhuang, General Yu, and others stepped forward to request battle. Your king, our army still possesses the strength to fight. Rather than scurrying away like stray dogs, it is better to defeat the enemy first, and then retreat in an orderly fashion. You have always been a staunch hawk for war. Seeing the fighting spirit ignited within the majority of my generals, you are naturally quite satisfied. Very well, our army shall first crush the enemy, and then retreat in an orderly fashion. Shangbo, seeing his own suggestion ignored, immediately wore a look of dissatisfaction upon his face. Your king, why do you refuse to heed your uncle's advice? Are you truly so arrogant? Because, uncle, your advice is wrong. How can that be? From Gaixia to Wuzhong, there are nearly 100 miles to cover. The route is fraught with perils, if we cannot withdraw in an orderly fashion, to say nothing of being easily cut off by the enemy. Once we reach the riverbank, we would lack sufficient vessels, making a successful crossing impossible. These logistical details of the retreat, Uncle Bo has never seriously considered. Now, intending to refute you, I find myself at a loss for words. Since Uncle has no further objections, then it is decided. Wait, what you just said holds some truth, but how can you guarantee that our army will be victorious rather than completely wiped out? The tides of war change in the blink of an eye. To guarantee certain victory, I cannot possibly do that. Then your king. However, I can guarantee this. Even if we cannot secure a total victory, I will not let the enemy get off easy. Sensing the resolve behind your words, General Gbu, Shang Zhuang and General Yu felt their hearts race. The blood in their veins began to boil. Your king, you speak far too lightly. Han Xin is not some fool like Liu Bang. It will not be easy to get the better of him. Ha ha ha. What are you laughing at? I laugh at your boosting the enemy's ego, while diminishing our own spirit. Is your courage truly spent, or do your loyalties lie elsewhere? With those words, Shang Bo shivered, cold sweat pouring down his face. However, only after seeing you make no other moves, did Shang Bo silently heave a sigh of relief. Brother, you must not speculate so recklessly. As an uncle of the Shang clan, how could I ever harbor loyalties towards someone else? The reason I advised against a decisive battle with the enemy was my concern that your confidence might be blind, risking the destruction of our entire army. Understood. If you, uncle, have a sound strategy to crush the enemy, I am more than willing to have you lead the charge alongside me. Shang Bo's words were impeccable. Coupled with his position as my uncle, the suspicion that the generals held toward him moments ago vanished instantly, but I did not expect that in just a few words, the mask of Shang Bo's betrayal would be stripped away. The way I dealt with him was borrowing a blade to cut someone down. I was just waiting for him to offer to ride into the fray. Very well. Since you are willing to join me in battle, uncle, my army is now of one mind. You rose slowly, approaching the map in the center of the command tent. The terrain here is vast and open, perfect for large-scale warfare. With Han Xin's ability, he surely anticipates a death match with our forces, and has made his preparations accordingly. Han Xin's art of war always favors setting traps to counter his opponent's style. But as for me, I have always preferred leading my elites to strike the enemy center, winning by shattering their core. If Han Xin wishes to win, he must surely pull elites to reinforce his center, and station 2 cavalry wings in ambush. Once the battle begins, Han Xin's center will feign retreat, luring my elites to chase them. Once the line is overextended, separating me from my main force and rear guard, the ambush cavalry will strike from the flanks, cutting our army in two. If this comes to pass, my vanguard will be trapped, unable to advance or retreat. By the time Han Xin leads his counterattack, our army would face total annihilation. After listening to your analysis, the generals felt a chill run down their spines, because they knew full well that if we followed your old combat habits, we would likely be outmaneuvered by Han Xin to our doom. Fortunately, you saw through it. At this moment, the eyes of the generals upon you held a different light, while it still contained reverence. Before, it was entirely for your peerless martial prowess, but now it is for your brilliant genius. You took in their shifting expressions, nodded with satisfaction, and commanded in a booming voice, General Shang Zhuang, where are you? I am here. Shang Zhuang stepped forward, responding loudly, I command you to select 30,000 elite horsemen, and charge into Han Xin's center when I give the signal. I obey, my king. General Gbu, General Yu Ziki, where are you? Gbu and Yu Ziki stepped forward, responding loudly, you are to lead 30,000 men each to guard our flanks. Once the enemy's flanking cavalry attacks, you will carry out these orders to crush them. We obey, my king. General Zhang Limo, General Huan Chu, where are you? We are here. Zhang Limo and Huan Chu stepped forward, responding loudly, I command you to lead the rear guard, prepared to support us at any moment. We obey, my king. As I said, you paused, as if you had completely forgotten about Shang Bo. Shang Bo feels like a ghost in his own camp. I thought you had grown suspicious of him, and were just waiting for a reason to strike. Your Majesty, every general has been assigned a duty. Why is my uncle the only one without a post? Forgive my forgetfulness, to have overlooked my own uncle. Please, uncle, do not take offense, you said with a hint of regret, then commanded in a booming voice, General Shang Bo, attend to me. I order you to lead 30,000 of the chief forces. Once Han Shin's army begins their counter-offensive. You shall carry out my specific instructions. Your Majesty, how could my uncle possibly lead such a task? General Xiang Bo, do you intend to defy my decree? Feeling the piercing, lethal intent in your eyes, Xiang Bo trembled in his heart, and hurriedly responded. Your humble uncle obeys your command. See that it is handled properly. You swept your gaze across the room, and declared firmly, Gentlemen, this battle determines the very destiny of Great Chu. I ask that you all give your absolute best. Our army shall emerge victorious. Give our all. Our army shall conquer. The generals shouted in unison. With the council concluded, you held General Wu Shi back, ordering him to monitor Xiang Bo from the shadows. Should he make a single suspicious move, execute him without hesitation. Though Wu Shi did not grasp the reason for such a ruthless directive, he was your blindly loyal soldier. Since you had made the arrangement, he would carry it out without question. Indeed, Wu Shi was no fool either. Xiang Bo's uncharacteristic behavior today had already piqued his suspicion, and your new order only confirmed his deepest doubts. By the time Wu Shi left your command tent, the night had reached its darkest hour. Just as you were hesitating whether to rest for the night, Yuji's lady-in-waiting, Yuner, entered the tent, and offered a deep, respectful bow. She asked politely, Has your Majesty finished with your official duties? Indeed. Then please, your Majesty, follow me to the inner tent. My lady has been waiting for a long time. Waiting a long time, has she? You murmured to yourself, then instructed, Lead the way, as you command. Before long, the two reached the entrance to your quarters. Yuner lifted the curtain for you, then respectfully stood guard outside. You stepped into the private chamber. Before your eyes lay Yuji curled up at the desk, fast asleep. Under the flickering lamplight, Yuji's breathtaking face looked all the more exquisite, as if she were a celestial being descended upon the realm. Born into a noble house, she possessed a grace and poise beyond that of ordinary noblewomen. Even in her sleep, she was the epitome of elegance. The sight brought a sense of peace to your weary soul. The day's brutal battle had already forged your presence on the battlefield. Yet in affairs of the heart, you still felt a lingering hesitation. After all, ancient times are nothing like the modern world. In modern times, dating is like browsing a public marketplace, whether for wealth or for fleeting pleasure. After deep interaction with each other, the emotional entanglement is relatively minor. But the rules of ancient times are different. Ancient women are relatively more devoted in their emotions, especially Yuji, who is an extremely devoted woman. Most of the stunning beauties in history shuffled between different powerful men. A stunning woman like Yuji, who is willing to sacrifice everything for her beloved man, is truly rare, and it is precisely because it is so rare that she is even more admirable. You, who have always been decisive, felt a moment of hesitation at this instant. Although Yuji is your wife in name, you still could not find peace of mind as you watched her fall asleep. A beauty like a painting. You quietly gazed at Yuji. Her elegant sleeping posture made you watch in a trance. Time passed without you knowing. The eyelashes on Yuji's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. Then her large, watery eyes opened, seeing you looking at her in such a daze. Yuji could not help but exclaim, Ah, your king, you have returned. Yuji's exclamation immediately brought your thoughts back. I have only just arrived. Are you tired, your king? Let me help you undress. Wait, my queen, you are... The joy on Yuji's face froze, replaced by a touch of distressing disappointment. You felt a sharp pang in your heart. You only just realized. From the moment I possessed this body, I became everything to this tragic woman, Yuji. What is destined must be accepted. Since I have inhabited the body of Xiang Yu, I must accept everything that belongs to Xiang Yu, and shoulder the responsibilities that are yours. After this change in mindset, a wave of relief washed over your heart. You said to Yuji with tenderness, Yuji, do not overthink it. I can undress myself. It is you instead, my silly queen. If you are tired, you should rest on the bed. What if you catch a cold sleeping here? I would be heartbroken then. Feeling the care in your words, Yuji felt a weight lift from her heart, thinking to herself that she had overthought it. I was just here waiting for you, your king, and fell asleep without realizing it. Your king, I was thinking of you. When Yuji finished speaking, a charming blush appeared on her pretty face. Recalling your coldness toward Yuji during dinner, you said apologetically, Yuji, at dinner, I should not have done that. You need not blame yourself, your king. You are a great hero who towers over the world. How could you dwell on matters between men and women all day long? As long as I am in your heart, and you can spare some time to accompany me, I am completely content. Yuji, you really are a good woman worth cherishing. Your king, although I am a woman, I also understand. A true man should always keep the world in his heart. From now on, I will no longer burden you, my king. As long as you are safe, my king, that is all that matters. Gazing at this sensible and understanding beauty, your heart overflows with emotion. In this moment, you find no words to answer this devoted beauty. You simply pull her tightly into your arms, as if you wish to melt her into your very own soul. In the depth of passion, Yuji closes her eyes, her lovely face resting against your broad chest. Her heart is filled with both anticipation and nervous tension. Indeed, you begin to unfasten her robes. She feels her body start to heat up, her soft small fists clench tightly against her chest, and her breathing grows uneven. When the timing is right, success naturally follows. Within the tent, a night of intimacy unfolds, filling the room with the essence of spring. At dawn, when the first ray of sunlight pierces into the tent, you jolt awake. Years of a life as a soldier have made you accustomed to waking at daybreak, no matter how late you slept, just stirring. You feel your head a bit heavy. Clearly, this is the aftermath of the night's passion. You shake your head vigorously. Suddenly, your nose twitches. A trace of fragrance drifts into your nostrils. Subconsciously, you reach out and grope across the bed, but it is empty. Dressing quickly, you pull back the curtain, ready to step out of the commander's tent. At that moment, a familiar figure appears outside. She wears a violet dress, her long hair cascading over her shoulders. Her features are like a painting, carrying an exquisite meal box. As she walks gracefully toward you, Yuji bows slightly, and in her gentle voice she suggests, "My king, I have brewed some ginseng soup. Drink it before you set out." Very well. You nod instinctively. Beside the table, Yuji virtuously ladles the soup for you, then rests her chin on her hands, silently watching you drink. Aren't you having any? You take the bowl and finish it all in one go. The ginseng soup is delicious, constantly teasing your taste buds. You drink 3 bowls in a row, before finally stopping. This small gesture makes Yuji feel content, watching the happy smile on her face. You feel as if you are in the comfort of your own home. For a moment, you do not want to leave. However, this is Geisha, the battlefield. These times are meant for bloody slaughter, not for domestic tenderness. Boom boom boom. The muffled sound of war drums suddenly echoes. You know, it is time to depart. Take care, my king. I will wait for your return. Do not worry. I shall return safely. After this victory, I will drink your brew again. Very well. I am always ready to serve my king. On the way to the main command tent, you learned from your guards that Han Xin had sent a challenge of battle, proposing a decisive duel in the area between our 2 armies. Upon reaching the main tent, you saw all the Chu generals assembled and waiting, holding the challenge banner high. Stepping onto the throne, you spoke in a booming voice. Just as I had foreseen last night, Han Xin has sent a challenge, demanding a fight to the death with our forces. Tell me, what should we do? Fight, fight, fight. The generals shouted in unison. All preparations have been completed. Now let us turn the world upside down. Turn the world upside down. Charge. Thousands of troops spread across the horizon, shadowing the sky with their sheer numbers. Sound the horns. Amidst the long, echoing blast of the war horns, 100,000 Chu soldiers marched in perfect rhythm, following your overlord halberd, swiftly entering the battlefield. At the front of the Chu army, a massive red banner rose from behind, the low hills fluttering upward. Close behind them was a forest of blades and spears, and flags eclipsing the sun. Han Xin, you have finally come. At this moment you felt no fear of the impending battle, but a boundless thirst to shatter the myths of war. Boom 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 boom. Within the ranks of both the Qi and Chu armies, deep thundering war drums erupted almost simultaneously. There was no diplomatic parley or talk of surrender between the commanders, only a singular, overwhelming intent, and that was to fight. You brandished your overlord halberd, pointing it fiercely toward Han Xin. Vanguard, take heed. Follow me and attack. We must seize Han Xin's banner. 30,000 Chu troops roared in unison. Seize Han Xin's banner. Clatter, clatter, clatter. 30,000 cavalry charged the formation. With immense momentum, the heavy thunder of hooves struck the hearts of the Qi soldiers like countless heavy hammers. 800 paces, 500 paces, 300 paces. As the 2 armies closed the distance, the soldiers in the center of the Qi formation could not stop trembling. Facing them was the invincible overlord of Chu. How could they not be afraid? Amidst the tide of the Qi army, Han Xin watched you lead the elites in a charge, a faint trace of disdain curling his lips. Xiang Yu, oh Xiang Yu, you remain nothing more than a reckless brute. Upon hearing Han Xin's remark, Qiantong, Cao Shen, Li Zuash and the others looked on in silence. Under the vast heavens, perhaps only Han Xin would dare to say such a thing. At the Battle of Julu, when the Qin general Zhang Han and Wang Li commanded 400,000 elite Qin troops, did they not fall to your sheer might? Even heroes like the king of Han, Liu Bang, have been repeatedly crushed by you, this brute. At the head of the Chu forces, you spurred your horse, Wuya, charging like an arrow released from a bow. Behind you, 30,000 Chu cavalry followed tightly, slashing their way into the heart of the Qi army. You led the charge, the overlord halberd dancing with lethal precision. Wherever he goes, a rain of blood and storms follows. You are leading the Chu cavalry, charging straight into the heart of the Qi army. Their front lines are falling like wheat, horses and men scattered in chaos. The cries of agony are endless. Witnessing this scene, Li Zuash's face turns grim, and he says to Han Xin, "Your Majesty, this Xiang Yu is truly a peerless warrior. In such a brief moment, he has already shattered our vanguard." Han Xin, however, remains unbothered. He issues a calm command, "Death Squad, advance. Reinforce the vanguard." As Han Xin's order rings out, a group of soldiers in coarse robes, hair tied diagonally, and daggers in hand emerge to confront the Chu army. Shang Xuang's expression hardens, and he cries out to you, "Brother King, these are the Qi Death Squad." Death Squad. You laugh coldly. "I shall make them corpses today." Shang Yu, prepare to die. The Qi soldiers grip their daggers tightly. Even though they know your might is unrivaled under heaven, they charge forward without a shred of hesitation. A death squad is a death squad after all. To slaughter the enemy, they never spare their own lives. How tragic for them. They face the greatest warrior history has ever known. The one thing you never lack is courage. If the gods stand in my way, I slay the gods. If the Buddhas block my path, I kill the Buddhas. In a flash of lightning, before the death squad can even strike, the Overlord halberd sweeps across with lethal precision. The sharp blade flashes with a killing chill. The next moment, several mangled heads fly into the air. The daggers held by the soldiers will never draw blood. You slay many in one strike, but quickly, more death squad soldiers rush upon you. An inch longer, an inch stronger. Your 18-foot Overlord halberd dances like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, constantly harvesting the lives of the Qi soldiers. Seeing their own king fight with such divine prowess, the Chu cavalry following behind are filled with fervor. They slaughter everything in their path without fear of death. As for the Qi soldiers, they have lost their relentless momentum. The death squad may not fear falling in battle, but they fear dying in vain. Their lives require a return on investment. But when they realize their sacrifice is utterly worthless, they too will falter. Seeing the squad retreat, Li Zuash's expression shifts from gravity to pure shock. "Your Majesty." Even the death squad could not stop him. Shang Yu is butchering his way through. Han Xin furrows his brows slightly, but quickly relaxes. Li Zuash, deploy the heavy infantry. As Han Xin's order is given, a wave of soldiers wearing iron armor, donning iron helmets, and clutching iron shields with long spears approach. They march in unison to intercept the Chu army. "Brother King, these are the Qi heavy infantry. Shang Zhuang cannot help but warn you. The heavy infantry Shang Zhuang speaks of are armored battalions clad head to toe in iron, a formation created by Wu Qi of the state of Wei. As recorded in history books, after the Wei Wuzu infantry was formed, they campaigned south and north under Wu Qi's command. They fought 72 major battles, gaining decisive victory in 64 of them, and ending the rest in a draw. Remarkably, they never tasted defeat. The state of Qin, bordering the state of Wei, suffered deeply at the hands of the Wei Wuzu. During the Battle of Yin, Jin, 500,000 Qin troops were crushed by a mere 50,000 Wei Wuzu. This led to the loss of vast territories east of Mount Hua. Qin's population plummeted and their national power withered. The prestige of the Wuzu was legendary. Yet you show no fear. Nonsense. Watch how I break them. The very next moment, I saw you charge headlong into the formation of the Wuzu. The Overlord halberd struck like a bolt of lightning, sweeping ruthlessly, deflecting all the incoming spears. And immediately after, the Overlord halberd attacked with the force of a violent storm. Switching from a sweep to a thrust, a dozen soldiers of Qi screamed in agony, all pierced to death. Several soldiers on the right flank were trampled. You reined in your horse and pivoted, swinging the halberd horizontally. You unleashed a powerful horizontal strike that could clear an entire army. Every soldier of the Wuzu struck by the Overlord halberd, without exception, had their bodies sent flying like broken kites, scattered in every direction. By the time your assault slowed down, within an area of 5 zhong, not a single soldier of the Qi army remained alive. All that was left was a sea of crimson and mangled remains. You were covered in blood. The Overlord, in his crimson radiance, locking eyes with him, was enough to chill a man to his core. Even experienced shock troops like the Qi army were struck with mortal terror. The soldiers of the Qi army were stunned, but your assault showed no signs of stopping. Amidst the charge, the Overlord halberd swung once more, unleashing another wave of horrific slaughter. Those Qi troops surrounding you were like a pack of foolish sheep, attempting to encircle a famished tiger. They had no power to harm the tiger, and what was most brutal was that their attacks only fed them directly to the lion's den. The faster you killed, the more ferocious you became. The Chu cavalry following you fought like wolves and tigers, driving the Qi soldiers into into a desperate retreat. Seeing that the Qi army was no match for your cavalry, Li Zuosh's color shifted in alarm. Your king, even the Wuzu cannot hold back Xiang Yu. Shall we proceed with the previously planned strategy? Han Xin glanced at you, closing in with each kill, and said with a firm expression, pass on my orders. The plan remains unchanged. Retreat in order. The whole army is to fight while retreating. Upon hearing this, the generals grew tense. They could not help but feel anxious. When two armies are locked in combat, the most dangerous thing is to retreat. It is fine if the forces are small, but once the numbers exceed 100,000, it is nearly impossible to maintain effective command while executing a withdrawal. Therefore, any slight error could lead to a total collapse of the army. In the eyes of the Qi generals, facing an peerless warrior like you, even holding a formation is a struggle, and being pursued while retreating only makes the situation impossible to control. Li Zuosh gritted his teeth. He attempted to persuade Han Xin once more. Your king, while your previous strategy was brilliant, the sheer ferocity of Xiang Yu still exceeded our army's estimates. Based on the current developments, it will not be long now. Xiang Yu's cavalry will soon breach our central formation completely. Once Xiang Yu leads his forces past the line of defense, striking directly at you, the consequences will be unimaginable. I beseech you to reconsider, your king. General Cao Shen shared the same concern, and quickly chimed in. Your king, General Li Zuosh speaks the truth. With the overwhelming force of Xiang Yu's cavalry, they shall be upon you in no time. As the saying goes, a person of great wealth does not sit near a dangerous wall. You are a man of immense importance, your king. It is best not to tempt fate. Though I, your humble servant, lack great talent, I am willing to lead my forces to intercept his cavalry. In my estimation, as long as we leverage our numerical advantage, our army can still defeat the Chu forces. Upon hearing this, Han Xin simply waved his hand. There is no need for further persuasion. Xiang Yu has already taken the bait. The one who should be worried, the one who should be trembling, is sitting on the other side. Pass on my orders. The main army is to retreat. The entire force shall fight as we pull back. Han Xin's mind was set. Knowing further persuasion was futile, the generals immediately began to carry out his commands. Not long after, Shang Zhuang saw the Qi army's massive coordinated retreat, and quickly spoke to you. Brother King, just as you predicted last night, Han Xin has moved his main army back. The Qi army is truly withdrawing. Han Xin has finally fallen into our battle trap. HMPH, since he has set the stage, then we shall certainly play along to his little show. Having said that, you commanded in a booming voice. Pass on my orders. The main army is to advance. The entire force is to pursue. Following your direct command, the Chu army began the relentless pursuit. The cavalry under your command led the charge. However, the further the pursuit continued, the more I grew to respect Han Xin's strategic command. Coordinating a retreat of hundreds of thousands of troops is a task of immense difficulty. One wrong move, and it becomes chaos, a total collapse. Yet Han Xin achieved exactly what he claimed he would. My use of troops. The more the better. Under Han Xin's masterful command, hundreds of thousands of Qi soldiers withdrew without losing their discipline, gradually stretching themselves out like a giant, tensioned bow, waiting only for the right moment to snap back with lethal force. Charge, charge, charge. You had become a most convincing actor, fully committed to playing along with Han Xin, leading your army in a wild, frantic chase. The battle lines were stretched ever thinner. Amidst the tide of the Qi army, Han Xin watched as more and more of his units were routed, defeated, and trampled. Even he could not help but admire your and your army's incredible strength in breaking through formations. He was truly impressed. Although Han Xin kept a composed, stoic expression on his face, those closest to him knew Han Xin was feeling the pressure just as much. As time continued to pass, the divisions within the Chu army ranks have widened significantly. The situation is turning in favor of the Qi army. Final victory seems to be within reach. Behind Han Xin, Qian Tong, Li Zuosh, Cao Shen, and the others all wear solemn expressions. If it were any one of them leading the troops, they could never have managed as Han Xin has, commanding his forces with perfect precision, like an extension of his own will. Even while facing the fierce onslaught of the Chu army, he is able to fight and retreat by turns, with effortless composure. Feeling that the moment is ripe, Han Xin pulls on his reins to halt, drawing his purple moon sword from his waist. He points it toward the main Chu formation, and commands in a ringing clear voice. Hear my orders. Light the signal fire at the rear. Order General Kong Shi and General Chen He to lead the charge. They must sever the center of the Chu ranks, leaving them unable to coordinate head from tail. All units, stop the retreat immediately. Turn and strike back. Annihilate the Chu army. This very day, the king has issued his command. command, turn and strike back. Annihilate the Chu army. This very day, hundreds of messengers spur their horses with lightning speed, carrying Han Xin's orders to every corner of the army. As two columns of signal smoke rise from the rear of the Qi lines, the cavalry waiting in ambush under Kong Shi and Chen He instantly become two sharpened blades, stabbing into the heart of the Chu formation. At the same time, the Qi units that were retreating now change front, leaping into a counter-attack. In a single instant, the tide of battle has turned. The scales of victory are tilting toward the Qi army. On a high ridge several miles away, Liu Bang, accompanied by Zhang Liang and Chen Ping, is watching the slaughter on the battlefield below. Seeing the battle unfold precisely as Han Xin calculated, Liu Bang feels a mix of joy and concern. The joy is, his greatest enemy is about to suffer a crushing defeat. The concern is, once one strong enemy vanishes, another massive potential threat is slowly emerging. Let us go. Liu Bang furrows his brow, his voice carrying a chill. Once we return, you are to begin planning how to counteract Han Xin's forces. Zhang Liang and Chen Ping exchange a look and answer in unison. Yes, in the chaos of the battlefield, you see the signal smoke rising within the Qi rear lines, and the Qi units that have begun their counterattack. First, send your trusted aide Wu Shi to relay orders to the supervisor, Shang Bo. Immediately split the 20,000 cavalry remaining from the charge into two. You and Shang Zhuang will each lead half off the field. Break out from the left and right flanks. You are to circle back and trap the Qi cavalry on both wings. Although the Qi army numbers in the hundreds of thousands, their elite cavalry does not exceed 40 or 50,000. Once the cavalry on the Qi flanks is eaten away, that Qi army will lose its greatest mobility. By doing this, as long as the Chu army does not collapse in one battle, we can withdraw at our leisure. Han Xin has been keeping his eyes on your big horse. Upon discovering that you and Shang Zhuang had taken separate troops and left, although he could not immediately grasp your true intent, he still dispatched troops to pursue you and Shang Zhuang. To Han Xin, once the game of chess is set, the situation must develop according to his calculations. Once any chess piece tries to jump off the board, he naturally wants to knock it back into place. Because you and Shang Zhuang lead your troops away separately, this leaves a gap in the defenses of the Chu frontal position. At this moment, under the close supervision of Wu Shi and his elite guards, Shang Bo drove 30,000 captive Qi soldiers towards the front. The captive Qi soldiers were still wearing their original armor, making them easily identifiable. Upon seeing this, the counter-attacking Qi army cried out to their old brothers in arms. Yet what the Qi army could not understand was, the captive soldiers opposite showed no reaction at all, as if they no longer recognized their former brothers. Seeing the Qi counterattack was proving futile, a mocking smile crept across Wu Shi's face. He immediately relayed the order to Shang Bo. Shang Bo desperately wished to defy the command, even wanting to reveal the Chu army's positions to the Qi side. But seeing Wu Shi holding the king's arrow, and with his elite guards watching him with killing intent, he had no choice, and was forced to obey. Before long, the Chu soldiers tasked with guarding the captives began to draw their bows. However, it was not at the opposing Qi army that they aimed, but at the helpless captives within their own formation. Had one looked closer, they would have noticed the captives only wore chest armor, with their backs completely undefended. Not only that, they were all tied together in rows by long ropes. Being so, the captives were forced to keep moving forward. Any sign of hesitation, and a volley of arrows would rain down from behind, turning them into pincushions. Hearing the sound of bowstrings drawn behind them, the captives turned pale with terror, charging forward against their will. Seeing the crowd of captives rushing towards them, the Qi soldiers stared in disbelief, their faces filled with shock. Only when the first line raised their weapons to strike did they realize things had turned grim. They scrambled to raise their own weapons to defend. In an instant, two groups of Qi soldiers began slaughtering each other on the battlefield. The spectacle looked bizarrely ominous. Han Xin, witnessing the carnage, with his own soldiers mowing down his own men, galloped forward and shouted at the captives, "I am here. How dare you revolt?" If this were the past, this single shout from Han Xin would surely have cowed them into submission. Alas, these men were trapped in a desperate plight, driven by the instinct to survive. They were forced to charge onward. The captives had chest armor, so advancing did not guarantee death. But if they stopped, they would either be trampled by those behind, or shot down by the Chu archers. Were it any other general confronted with such a situation, they would surely be unnerved, not knowing how to proceed. But Han Xin, being the top-tier commander he was, would never tolerate these defiant captives. He calmly brushed aside the notion of his own Foss's destruction, and issued orders right and left. Archers at the ready. Should any captive dare to charge my formation again, fire immediately, no mercy. Cao Shen deemed this move inappropriate, and immediately persuaded him. Your king, those ahead are our own Qi soldiers. If the order to kill is given, I fear it will break the hearts of the troops. Break their hearts. HMPH. Han Xin's expression turned cold. Keep your eyes peeled and look closely. They are the defectors of the Chu army. They have betrayed me. If I do not issue the order to execute them, these traitors will not only slaughter more of my soldiers, but they will also ruin my grand strategy to wipe out the Chu army. Cao Shen looked at the chaotic scene unfolding ahead, wanting to say something, but he ultimately chose to keep silent. Outside the left flank of the Chu army, Qi General Kang Shi had been closely monitoring the battle's developments. When he saw the Chu formation stretch out exactly as Han Xin had predicted, he was filled with utter admiration for Han Xin, thinking that he would play a significant role in the defeat of the overlord Xiang Yu. Kang Shi felt his blood beginning to boil. Just at this moment, his deputy Meng Qin called out to warn him. General Kang Shi, look, our rear signal fire has been lit. Kang Shi looked in the direction of the signal and immediately burst into hearty laughter. Ha ha ha, this is the overlord telling us we can attack now. All troops, follow the order. The Chu army has fallen for the overlord brilliant ruse. Everyone, charge with me. Our moment of glory is now. Following Kang Zai's command, the 20,000 Qi cavalrymen, who had been lying in ambush, immediately launched a charge at the Chu formation. They intended to break the Chu lines in one single blow. 10,000 cavalry are unstoppable. 20,000 are practically invincible. The momentum generated by the charge of 20,000 Qi cavalry was truly earth-shattering. GBU saw the scene, yet he was not afraid. Because of your anticipation of the enemy's moves, he had long since made ample preparations. Under Jibu's direct command, 10,000 shield bearers and 10,000 pikemen formed up. A massive wall of spiked shields rose, and behind the shield wall stood 10,000 archers. They were arranged in 5 rows, ready to fire in rotating waves at any moment. The Qi cavalry charged at high speed. In the span of a heartbeat, they collided violently with the Chu shield wall. The combination of the shield formation and the pikes inflicted heavy casualties on the Qi cavalry. This made Kang Shi, who was commanding from the rear, frown secretly. Just as Kang Shi was considering shifting his target for a breakthrough, the center of the Chu shield formation suddenly split open into a massive gap. The Chu shield formation is broken. Everyone, charge into the opening. No one knew who shouted it first. The Qi cavalry, having bled against the other walls, clamored to redirect their charge into the central breach. Meng Qin felt a sense of foreboding, and quickly warned Kang Shi to be extra cautious, suggesting they keep a reserve force ready for any sudden shift in the situation. But unfortunately, Kang Shi was so eager for glory that he completely ignored this issue. In his view, Meng Qin was simply being overly cautious. Once the Chu shield formation is broken, there would be no force left that could stop the charge of the Qi iron cavalry. In the era of cold steel weapons, massed cavalry charges truly possess such raw power. But Kang Shi overlooked one critical detail. That was, the Chu shield formation had been intentionally broken in order to break through the Chu line as quickly as possible, and to secure a great achievement before Chen He, who was in charge of the right flank, could act. Kang Shi led his remaining cavalry into the breach at the center. Only then did Kang Shi discover, in horror, that the breach in the center was clearly not a shortcut to victory. It is a path that leads straight to the yellow springs of death. Because, from the gaps in the shield walls on both sides of the central breach, sharp spears kept thrusting out relentlessly. What shocked Kang Shi even more was a piercing shout suddenly echoed from the front of the breach. Archers, follow the order. Volley fire. Upon Jibu's command, a dense torrential rain of arrows descended upon the charging Qi cavalry at the center. In an instant, many Qi cavalrymen were struck down, and these fallen riders tripped the horses behind them, plunging the entire formation into chaos. Seeing the scene, Kang Shi shouted in a panic, "No, it is an ambush. The rear guard, pull back now." Kang Zai's reaction was fast enough, but once warhorses charge at full speed, it is never easy to bring them to a halt. Not to mention that the majority of the Qi riders were still being jostled by their own comrades. As a result, Kang Zai's order not only failed to solve the problem, but stalled the entire vanguard, leaving them unable to advance or retreat. The lethality of a cavalry charge relies largely on their high-speed velocity, the immense momentum of the charge. Once that momentum is stunted, their lethality drops to nothing, and in this cramped, confined environment, the cavalry is left completely helpless. The central passage was quite spacious, but as the shield and spear formations pressed in from both sides, it turned narrower and narrower. Arrows rained from the front, spears surged like waves from the flanks. The Qi cavalry realized they had turned from ferocious wolves into lambs awaiting the slaughter. Everyone praises Han Xin for his brilliant military mind, yet he has fallen right into my hands. I see that you, my king, are the true master of war. The battle is proceeding even more smoothly than imagined. This makes me double the pleasure, and admire your foresight even more. Ha ha, ha ha. Deep, thunderous hoofbeats approached from afar. GBU looked in the direction of the sound, and immediately saw a familiar banner emerging within his line of sight. GBU realized, you have led the troops to flank us, ready to deal the killing blow to the Qi cavalry. Under your command, the Chu cavalry quickly shattered the rear of the Qi army, trapping the majority of them within the central breach. Suddenly, they became fish in a jar. The Qi cavalry erupted in panic, scurrying about like ants on a hot pan, charging blindly and colliding with one another. Under the threat of imminent death, some began to lose their minds. In order to survive, they trampled ruthlessly over their own brothers in arms. As such, many Qi cavalrymen were wiped out, falling desperately into the hail of arrows. In that blink of an eye, the entire central passage, filled with the relentless sounds of arrows piercing through the air, spears shattering armor, shouts of anger and piercing screams. In just a few moments, the casualties of the Qi army neared 10,000. Even those who were still alive had nothing to celebrate, for they were merely awaiting their execution, trapped in a hell that claims lives at any moment. The terror in Kong Zai's heart grew more intense. Eyes locked on the exit only 50 paces away. Kong Zai's face twisted into an expression of sheer agony. He had been deeply trusted by the king of Qi. With such a grand future ahead of him, he was destined for titles and high office. He could not die here. With bloodshot eyes, Kong Shi slashed wildly at his own men, blocking his path. Move! Get the hell out of my way! A few Qi cavalrymen could not react in time. Or perhaps they never imagined their own general would strike them down, and were cut down one after another by Kong Shi. Meng Qin, deputy to Kong Shi, witnessed the scene, and immediately questioned him in shock and anger. General Kong Shi, these are your own men. How could you be so ruthless? Ruthless. HMPH. Kong Shi glared back at Meng Qin. They are nothing but ants. Why should I care? Having said that, Kong Shi ignored Meng Qin further, spurring his horse forward over the bodies of his own soldiers. Before long, because his path was blocked ahead again, Kong Shi prepared to slash at those in his way once more. At this, Meng Qin could no longer stand it, and hurriedly called out to warn him. The brothers ahead, be careful. Clear the way, quickly. To Meng Qin's plea for mercy, Kong Shi only offered a cold sneer, and continued to spur his horse forward. Just as he was about to flee through the opening in the center, Kong Zai's spirit soared, and he laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, heaven be praised, I have finally escaped. The words were cut short, as if someone had suddenly seized Kong Shi by the throat. His voice stopped abruptly, because he suddenly realized that the Qi cavalry outside the central opening had already been replaced by Chu cavalry, especially that purple banner fluttering in the wind, sent his heart collapsing into ruin. Just when Kong Shi was sinking into despair, from behind the cavalry Yu led, suddenly came a wave of war cries. Kong Shi looked toward the sound, and quickly realized that reinforcements from Qi had arrived. At this moment joy surged through him. He thought to himself, heaven is truly protecting me. There is no more risk to my life. This was indeed worth celebrating. But the moment Kong Shi thought about how he had botched Han Xin's mission, he felt a splitting headache again. As a longtime veteran under Han Xin, Kong Shi knew well how strict Han Xin's discipline was. By botching this mission, he was definitely in for a severe punishment. Perhaps heaven was indeed favoring Kong Shi. Just as he was wondering how to deal with Han Xin, Yu actually sent the Chu cavalry surrounding Yu to meet the incoming Qi reinforcements. He was left all alone outside the central breach in the line. One man holding the pass. 10,000 cannot get through. No, this is the perfect chance for me, Kong Shi, to redeem myself. At least that is how Kong Shi perceived it. Soldiers, Xiang Yu is all alone over there. As long as we kill him, we can turn defeat into victory. Everyone with me, charge. Kong Shi, filled with fighting spirit, charged toward you first. Behind him, there were not many cavalrymen following, only about 100 riders. Obviously, this is the after effect of him slaughtering his own men. Although Kong Shi was not particularly satisfied with this outcome, the arrow was already on the bowstring. He had no choice but to fire. He had to grit his teeth and charge forward. However, seeing Kong Shi charging straight at me, I did not seem to care in the slightest. Not only did I not prepare for battle, but I actually took the day off to rest and recharge. Seeing me act so arrogant, anger ignited in Kong Zai's heart. He subconsciously tightened his grip on his horse's flanks. Just as the horses were only 30 feet apart, I suddenly opened my eyes. Two gazes, sharp as blade edges, slashed directly into Kong Zai's eyes. Kong Shi shuddered. In a split second, a thought of turning around and fleeing to save his neck flashed through his mind. But Before Kang Shi could even move, I had already spurred Wuya to leap forward. The overlord halberd in my hand slashed like lightning toward Kang Zai's throat. Kang Shi instantly felt enveloped by a thick, murderous aura. He wanted to dodge to the side, but he found himself completely unable to move. Thud, as the sound of the weapon piercing flesh rang out, while my blade sliced across Kang Zai's neck. A head went flying into the sky. Seeing the scene, the 100-odd Qi soldiers behind Kang Shi stared in utter shock with their mouths wide open. They quickly pulled on their reins to stop. I reached out and caught Kang Zai's head, and after guiding my horse to the center of the gap, I shouted loudly, "Listen, soldiers of Qi, Kang Shi is dead. If you wish to survive, then quickly dismount and surrender." Looking at Kang Zai's head, which was still filled with astonishment, how could the remaining Qi troops have any courage left to resist? They all dismounted and surrendered. I successfully captured the 20,000 cavalrymen on the Qi army's left flank. A satisfied smile appeared on my face, although I was not clear about the exact situation on Yu Ziki and Shang Zhuang's side, but I trusted that, with the element of surprise, their results would surely be significant. With the Qi army's 2 cavalry flanks dealt with, it was time to handle the pursuing Qi reinforcements. Although there were 50,000 of them on the left flank, yet under the pursuit and slaughter of the Chu cavalry, they were still suffering defeat after defeat. It would surely not be long before they faced a total collapse on the chaotic central battlefield. Due to Han Xin's cold-blooded and decisive nature, 30,000 surrendered Qi soldiers were quickly dealt heavy losses. Some of them were dying from both sides, and in their desperation, they went into a frenzy. They started slaughtering anyone in their path. Shang Bo was responsible for leading 30,000 of these men. Because he was nearby, he was being surrounded by dozens of these frenzied soldiers. Cao Shen had sharp eyes. Once he spotted Shang Bo, he immediately alerted Han Xin, "Your king, that bastard Shang Bo is over there." It seems, he was the one directing our surrendered troops. Han Xin's voice turned cold. "General Cao Shen, Shang Bo has humiliated our army's prestige. Go and fetch me his head. As you command, your king. I will return with it shortly." Cao Shen was decisive and swift in his actions. Before long, he led his troops to charge before Shang Bo. "Great General Cao Shen of Qi is here. Shang Bo, you bastard. Prepare to die." Hearing Cao Shen's roar, Shang Bo felt a sudden jolt of alarm. He wondered why Cao Shen had targeted him. Because of his undercover status for Zhang Liang, Shang Bo was not afraid that Cao Shen would kill him. What worried him was that there were many Chu soldiers around. If his identity were exposed now, it would surely disrupt Zhang Liang's plan. Cao Shen did not know the concerns in Shang Bo's heart, nor did he care to know. He urged his horse forward. The crescent halberd descended with a crushing force, as if it could split mountains and shatter stones. Sensing the lethal threat of Cao Shen's blow, Shang Bo dared not be careless. Hastily raising his weapon to parry, there was a thunderous clash of metal, sending sparks showering in all directions. Shang Bo, a first-tier warrior, was violently knocked back several paces. The stinging pain radiating from his palms made it clear to Shang Bo that he was no match for Cao Shen. Just as Shang Bo hesitated whether to reveal his identity, Cao Shen's crescent halberd struck again, slashing, sweeping, and stabbing, with an extremely fierce momentum. Shang Bo's strength was already a notch below Cao Shen's, and now, with his mind elsewhere, he was quickly driven back, suffering defeat after defeat, vaguely fearing for his life. In this critical moment, Shang Bo decided to risk it all. As he barely fended off the attack, he shouted urgently, "General Cao Shen, stop at once. You cannot kill me. Ha ha ha, that is truly laughable. Do you not know that you and I are mortal enemies?" Cao Shen replied mockingly, not showing the slightest intention to stop his attacks. "General Cao Shen, you really cannot kill me. We are on the same side. Why do you not admit you are not a man surnamed Shang? I will tell you the truth. I have long since secretly defected to the King of Han, and I am currently following the orders of Mr. Zhang Liang to lurk beside Shang Yu, secretly defected to the King of Chu, and acting on the orders of Zhang Liang to lurk. If someone else had said this, like Zhang Limo, GBU, or the others from the Chu army, Cao Shen might have believed it. But who is Shang Bo? He is the son of Shang Yan, your own uncle, and a top-tier noble of the state of Chu. In Cao Shen's eyes, it was impossible for Shang Bo to betray you. Based on this judgment, Cao Shen felt that Shang Bo was taking him for a fool. As his fury flared up, the attacks of the crescent halberd grew even more fierce. Shang Bo lamented inwardly, feeling extremely frustrated. He never imagined that Cao Shen would not believe his words. After another 7 or 8 rounds, Shang Bo showed a weakness, and was knocked off his horse by Cao Shen's blow, just as Cao Shen rode forward, preparing to behead Shang Bo. A squad of light cavalry charged over from the direction of the Han army camp. The lead rider shouted loudly, "General Cao Shen, spare his life." Cao Shen recognized the lead rider. This man is called Zhang Meng, and is Zhang Liang's personal bodyguard. "Guard Zhang Meng, what is your intention?" Zhang Meng answered truthfully, "I have come under my master's orders to inform General Cao Shen that Xiangbo is one of our own. He must not die. What? Xiangbo is truly one of our own. How can that be? I am not entirely sure of the specifics myself. I am merely following my master's orders to save Xiangbo. After hearing the exchange between Cao Shen and Zhang Meng, Xiangbo felt a surge of joy in his heart, thinking he had found salvation. Yet, Xiangbo had overlooked one crucial detail, that the one who now held his fate in his hands, besides Cao Shen and Zhang Meng, was none other than Han Xin, and in fact, Han Xin's role was even more critical. Han Xin had always prided himself on his mastery of training and deploying troops, but today, the mutiny of 30,000 troops under his command was a massive setback, and it would surely deal a heavy blow to his prestige. Because of this, Han Xin had ordered Cao Shen to bring him Xiangbo's head, and for this very reason, he stepped before Cao Shen and demanded in a cold voice, "General Cao Shen, are you planning to defy my orders?" Caught off guard by the sudden question, Cao Shen looked slightly bewildered and hurriedly replied, "I would never dare, your king. Please give your command. If you dare not, then why have you not yet brought me the head of Xiangbo?" But Guard Zhang Meng insists that Xiangbo is one of our own, and Mr. Zhang Liang wishes for his life to be spared. If it were any other matter, Han Xin might have considered honoring Zhang Liang's request, but he had already issued the royal decree to claim Xiangbo's head, and he could not simply back down now, at least from Han Xin's perspective. With the state of Chu nearing its end, Xiangbo was no longer of any consequence. To let Xiangbo, a two-faced turncoat, damage his own authority, it was simply not worth it. Based on this logic, Han Xin continued to order Cao Shen, "As king, my word is law. Since I have ordered Xiangbo's death, I will not stop until it is done. General Cao Shen, take his head at once." Seeing Han Xin's unwavering intent to kill, Zhang Meng grew anxious. "King of Qi, please. Xiangbo is a man my master specifically asked to protect. I implore you to grant my master this favor." "Impossible. This concerns the discipline and honor of my army. It matters not if it is Mr. Zhang Liang. Even if the king of Han himself were here, the answer remains no. King of Qi, you, get out. If your interference ruins the great task of destroying the Chu army, I will have your head for it." Han Xin was absolutely relentless, and Zhang Meng could do nothing but return to report back to Zhang Liang. Xiangbo, watching Zhang Meng get chased off by Han Xin, felt his briefly relieved heart tighten once again, watching Cao Shen approach with his halberd. Xiangbo frantically knelt and pleaded with Han Xin, "Spare me, King of Qi. I possess vital military intelligence that will decide the victory of this great battle." Cao Shen paused in his tracks, casting his gaze toward Han Xin, waiting for Han Xin's final decision. Han Xin did not even spare Xiangbo a glance. He uttered only one word, "Speak." Xiangbo did not dare to hesitate, and quickly blurted out, "King of Qi, the trap you laid using your favorite elite strike force, targeting the weakness of the central army, has already been seen through by them." "What?" Han Xin was stunned upon hearing this. He hurried toward Xiangbo. He said, "What is the meaning of all this? If you dare to harbor the slightest deception, I shall tear you limb from limb." Although Han Xin spoke with such ferocity, Xiangbo breathed a great sigh of relief, secretly knowing his life was spared. Just as Xiangbo was prepared to reveal your plans one by one, a thunderous shout echoed from nearby. "Xiangbo, you traitor! The villain Han Xin is right before you. If we do not risk our lives to strike him down now, when shall we ever get the chance?" Upon hearing Wu Shi's roar, Xiangbo secretly thought, "I am doomed." Indeed, Han Xin quickly retreated, while ordering Cao Shen to engage. Cao Shen was shocked and enraged. He dared not hesitate any longer. The crescent halberd swung like lightning toward Xiangbo's neck. Splat! With the sound of the crescent halberd piercing flesh, Xiangbo's head, filled with terror and resentment, flew into the sky. Seeing you struck by an arrow, the Qi army was invigorated. But what they failed to understand was, a wounded tiger is far more terrifying than an uninjured one. Your pair of eyes became even more fierce, and your charging became less inhibited. When you were about 10 steps from the Qi archers, you struck your horse's flank fiercely. Guya leapt forward, instantly crashing right in front of the Qi archers. With no distance to cushion the charge, the archers became the most vulnerable unit. Under your fierce charge, they were scattered in disarray. Han Xin at this moment was no longer calm. For the sake of his life, he was forced to avoid your sharp edge. However, Han Xin did not just run away. He retreated slowly, while coordinating his troops to intercept you, even preparing to use his numerical advantage to exhaust your wounded self. Such tactical response fully displayed Han Xin's top-tier command presence. The further you pursued, the more you were subtly falling into a trap. At this moment, how could you not understand Han Xin's intentions? You judged that it was impossible to complete the goal of capturing the leader first. You decisively stopped your deep pursuit and turned back to regroup with the Chu cavalry. In your eyes, as long as you had enough cavalry by your side, even with your injuries, you could still seize the command and retreat safely. Han Xin saw you decisively turn back to rejoin your cavalry, and his evaluation of you, in his heart, rose by another notch. Come to think of it, even after Han Xin received reports of defeat from both flanks, he still thought you had broken his plans only by luck. But in this head-on clash, Han Xin not only felt your unparalleled sharp prowess, but also sensed your decisive wisdom. Under such circumstances, if Han Xin still treated you as a reckless brute, then he himself would be a complete fool. He refreshed his understanding of you. Han Xin realized this battle could not be fully decided today. To continue fighting would only result in needless casualties. Better to wait for nightfall and withdraw the army back to the camp first. Wait to calculate again before coming to fight you once more. Han Xin had the thought of a ceasefire, and you likewise shared the same desire. At this moment, two mortal enemies share a rare, tacit understanding. Both you and Han Xin are men of action. Once your minds are set, you immediately begin to reorganize and withdraw your troops. By the time the moon rises over the weeping willows, you lead over 80,000 soldiers and return to the Geisha camp with ease. In this battle, the Chu army annihilated the main force of the Qi cavalry, beheaded the Qi general Kong Shi, and used the hands of the Qi army to eliminate the traitor Shang Bo. The victory is quite substantial. Of course, Shang Bo's status as a traitor should not be exposed. Not only must it be hidden, but we must also embellish the narrative properly. Frame Shang Bo's endurance and sacrifice in attempting to assassinate Han Exin as a heroic deed, to ignite a collective hatred among the soldiers of Chu. Considering the situation remains dire, do not let minor victories make you complacent. Once the army surgeons have finished treating your wounds, you head to the camp for the wounded to express your gratitude. Arriving at the wounded camp, you do nothing specific, offering only a few simple words of comfort, or lending a hand where needed. Yet, even such a simple gesture of dedication earns you the heartfelt recognition and adoration of the soldiers of Chu. When you leave the camp, gazing at pairs of burning, passionate eyes, you have no doubt that these soldiers would shield you from blades and fight to the death for your cause. Deeply moved, you can't help but sigh. Ancient soldiers are truly simple-minded, and so very easy to satisfy. By the time you return to the main command tent, the night is already late. Seeing Yuner guarding out front, you know, my queen, Yuji, is waiting inside for me. Walking up to Yuner, you command, Yuner, go tell the kitchen to prepare some food, and bring it to the bedside tent. As you wish. Yuner humbly acknowledges the order. After Yuner leaves, you do not enter the main command tent, but instead head straight to the tent where Yuji stays. Just as you reach the tent, a joyful voice drifts out from within. Ah, your king has returned. You lift the curtain and stride inside. Yes, I am back. Your king, you are wounded. Do not worry. It is nothing more than a mosquito bite. Let me take a look at it. Your king is a pillar of strength, a man of stature. I care not for such minor scratches. But your queen is worried. Feeling a warmth in your heart, you slowly loosen your robes, revealing the wound on your chest. See, just a small scrape. Yuji delicately touches your chest with grace. Seeing the wound is not in a vital spot, and the arrow hit is not deep, she finally breathes a small sigh of relief. However, out of concern for you, Yuji pleads, Your king, could you promise your queen one thing? Tell me what it is first and let me hear it. Your king, you are the overlord, and you are the bedrock of the Chu nation. Your safety is paramount. I hope that in the battles to come, your king, do not risk your life leading the charge into the fray again. This, you have fallen silent. You understand the heart of Yuji, and you know that what she says makes sense. But the dire situation that the Chu army faces now requires everyone from top to bottom to risk their lives and fight with all their might. As the commander of the Chu army, as the soul of this entire army, you must lead by example. Yuji found the answer in your reaction. Though somewhat disappointed, she still said with a smile, My king, do not be troubled. Now that our army is in such a predicament, it is indeed necessary for you to charge at the vanguard. Once this crisis is resolved, I beseech you, my king, to cherish yourself more. You could not refuse her any longer. Smiling, you replied, Very well, I, your king, give you my word. Having obtained the answer she sought, Yuji smiled contentedly and carefully bandaged your wounds. Inside the Han army camp, Although the night had deepened, the lights were still burning bright in Liu Bang's central command tent. Liu Bang sat on the main throne, clutching the latest battlefield report, his expression dark and uncertain. The results of the opening battle were truly beyond Liu Bang's expectations. Han Xin had the advantage in troops, and brilliant schemes at his disposal. Yet in the end, he lost to you. What made it even harder for Liu Bang to accept was that you, who had always fought with raw ferocity, not only employed strategy in this major battle, but your tactical prowess even surpassed Han Xin. Others using schemes is not to be feared. What is terrifying is that you now use them yourself. After all, you, a peerless warrior, were already capable of overwhelming Liu Bang. If you were to excel in both letters and arms, would not that be defying the heavens? Below Liu Bang, Zhang Liang and Chen Ping sat opposite each other. Their expressions were filled with a hint of complexity. Clearly, the outcome of this battle was also somewhat beyond the expectations of Zhang Liang and Chen Ping. The three men were each lost in their own thoughts, silently sitting in non-communication. For a while, the atmosphere in the tent was quite oppressive. It is unknown how much time had passed, when Liu Bang, with a sullen face, asked, "Mr. Zhang Liang, Mr. Chen Ping, how do you view this matter?" Zhang Liang glanced at Chen Ping, signaling for him to answer first. Chen Ping did not hesitate, and replied directly, "Your king, this subject believes there is something suspicious behind this." "What kind of suspicion? What kind of person is Shang Yu?" "Your king, you have locked blades with him for many years. You would know better than anyone. As the saying goes, it is easier to change the landscape than it is to change one's nature." Was Shang Yu's use of strategy this time a coincidence? Or has he truly mastered both arts of war and state? It truly warrants investigation. Why need we resort to blades? Liu Bang felt that what Chen Ping said made great sense, and immediately asked, "Then, according to your opinion, was Shang Yu's use of strategy a coincidence? Or has he truly mastered both arts?" Chen Ping pondered for a moment, and cautiously replied, "Given that one's nature is hard to change, this subject is more inclined to believe it was a coincidence." "Very well. I, your king, think the same." Liu Bang wore a faint smile. He said with a hint of disdain, "Shang Yu is nothing but a brute who lacks any scholarly polish. He has spent all these years fighting like a wild beast. It is impossible for him to suddenly become a master of both arts and war." Liu Bang is unwilling to accept the truth that you have truly become a master of both strategies and strength, and he dares not believe it either. That he has achieved what he has now is fundamentally because of the talents you have gathered under your banner. But your recurring mistakes were also a significant factor. He and Chen Ping have reached a consensus on this matter. Liu Bang felt a little relieved, and immediately asked Zhang Liang, "Mr. Zhang Liang, what is your take on this?" Zhang Liang looked outside the tent, and spoke slowly, "Your king, your assessment, along with that of Mr. Chen Ping's, I share to a great extent. However, I believe there is another possibility." "What kind of possibility?" "The fact that Han Xin's brilliant trap was broken this time is very likely because you have gained a brilliant strategist under your command, a mastermind comparable to Fan Zeng." Upon hearing the name Fan Zeng, Liu Bang and Chen Ping both felt a jolt in their hearts. Who was Fan Zeng? Fan Zeng was once your top advisor. He helped topple the tyrannical Qin, subjugated all the various lords, and drove Liu Bang and his men into the remote Shu region. His contributions were indeed indispensable. If it were not for you falling for Chen Ping's rift-driving schemes, doubt and jealousy toward Fan Zeng, which led to the death of such a great talent in deep resentment, perhaps Liu Bang and his followers would still be farming in the fields of Shu. However, even though Fan Zeng is dead, his legacy of fear remains. Liu Bang and Chen Ping react so intensely precisely because they know how formidable Fan Zeng was. That is why their reaction is so fierce. Calming himself down a bit, Liu Bang could not help but ask, "Mr. Zhang Liang, do you happen to know who that brilliant strategist under Shang Yu is?" Zhang Liang shook his head. "I do not, your king. I am not even certain if such a mastermind truly exists. It is just that the person who could perfectly dismantle Han Xin's trap must surely possess an intellect on par with Fan Zeng. We are all well acquainted with Han Xin, and we are quite familiar with his tactical prowess. In my opinion, when it comes to pure military tactics, there are very few in this world who can surpass him, scarcely worth counting on one hand. Likewise, we are also extremely familiar with our bitter enemy, Shang Yu. In my view, unless Shang Yu has been replaced by someone else, otherwise, he would absolutely lack the skill to perfectly dismantle Han Xin's trap. Even the so-called coincidence would be hard to pull off. Therefore, I conclude that the reason Shang Yu was able to perfectly break Han Xin's trap must be because he has gained a new, brilliant advisor like Fan Zeng." Zhang Liang's analysis at first glance seemed a bit of a stretch, but the more one reflects upon it, the more plausible it seems. Just the thought of you potentially having another expert like Fan Zeng made Liu Bang feel like there was a thorn in his throat. "Mr. Zhang Liang, based on your speculation, eliminating Shang Yu once and for all seems like a tall order, and if you do not destroy him, dealing with Han Xin becomes quite another matter. I am afraid we must reconsider our long-term strategy. In the past, Zhang Liang always kept the big picture in mind, and would surely agree with how I decided to handle Han Xin. But today, on the battlefield, Han Xin has slapped my face. He insists on executing Shang Bo. Once this rift is formed, it will not be easy to smooth things over. Zhang Liang's mind raced. He replied calmly, "Your king, in my humble opinion, regardless of whether Shang Yu is wiped out or not, you must proceed with your plans to deal with Han Xin as soon as possible. As for exactly when to launch it, that depends on the timing. Mr. Zhang Liang, if Shang Yu has not been wiped out yet, must we also start our plan to deal with Han Xin?" Liu Bang was very confused. Indeed. Why is that? Because Han Xin no longer holds you, your king, in any regard. He already harbors traitorous intentions. What? How dare that rascal Han Xin behave this way? Do you still remember Shang Bo, your king? Shang Bo, are you referring to the same Shang Bo who saved my life at the feast at Hong Gate? Indeed, that is the man. Mr. Zhang Liang, why would you suddenly mention him? Ever since the feast at Hong Gate, Shang Bo became my inside agent within the Chu army. But he is dead today, and he was killed by Han Xin. Shang Bo was killed by Han Xin. What exactly is going on here? During the battle today, Shang Bo was no match for General Cao Shen, and was about to be beheaded. At the critical moment, my personal guard Zhang Meng arrived just in time. After Zhang Meng explained that Shang Bo was a benefactor of His Majesty, and my personal inside agent, Han Xin still ordered General Cao Shen to kill Shang Bo by force. The audacity. That rascal Han Xin truly has the nerve. He actually dares to disregard me, your king. Quickly summon Fan Kuei. I must order Fan Kuei to take Han Xin's head. Please calm your anger, your king. As I said before, wiping out Shang Yu is the most urgent matter at hand. To achieve this goal, we not only cannot kill Han Xin now, we must also give him a helping hand. Help Han Xin? How can that be? Your king, driving away the tiger to swallow the wolf is fine, but a fierce tiger is stronger than an evil wolf. If Han Xin wins this great battle, we indeed need only sit and wait to see how things develop. But now that Han Xin has suffered a setback, we naturally must give him a hand. I understand the principle of what you say, but how exactly should we help him? I surely cannot dispatch troops and generals to help him, can I? Dispatching troops and generals is not necessary. I already have a brilliant plan to deal with the Chu army. I only need to pay a visit to the Qi army camp myself. Very well, since Mr. Zhang Liang already has a brilliant plan, then I shall leave this matter to you, Mr. Zhang Liang. Rest assured, your king, I will certainly handle this well. Chen Ping listened silently to the conversation between Zhang Liang and Liu Bang, unable to stop himself from sighing inwardly. Strategies to kill truly require no blades at all. Although Han Xin is the king of Qi, although he commands hundreds of thousands of troops, although he is a god-like military genius, his fate is not in his own hands. A word from Mr. Zhang Liang determines his fate. The most crucial point is, given Han Xin's political acumen, he likely has not realized yet that Mr. Zhang Liang is maneuvering against him, and might even be grateful to Mr. Zhang Liang for helping him purge you. Once the full scope of the plot becomes clear, Chen Ping could not help but sigh inwardly. It is truly tragic, a pity, and a warning worth heeding. Originally, as Chen Ping attained higher office, and gained more favor from Liu Bang, he slowly began to harbor thoughts of challenging Mr. Zhang Liang's position as the top strategist under Liu Bang. But now, having witnessed Mr. Zhang Liang's methods for dealing with Han Xin, Chen Ping knows that it is best to keep a low profile from now on. Fame and fortune are fine, but one must live to enjoy them. Don't be fooled by Mr. Zhang Liang's gentle and refined demeanor. Any man capable of bringing an empire to its knees can never be truly benevolent. If you truly mistake him for a simple, kind soul, you might find yourself ensnared over some trivial misunderstanding before you even realize it. Qi Army Camp, inside the command tent of Han Xin. At this moment, Han Xin is fixated on the map, deep in thought. He is wondering where exactly he left a gap, causing what seemed to be a masterfully crafted trap to suddenly become riddled with flaws. Han Xin pondered it over and over for a long time, but still could not find the answer. Just as Han Xin was about to leave the tent for some air, a guard arrived to report that Mr. Zhang Liang was requesting an audience. Recalling how he had slighted Mr. Zhang Liang earlier today, Han Xin's first reaction was that Mr. Zhang Liang has come to settle the score. As the exalted king of Qi, Han Xin did not hold much fear for Mr. Zhang Liang. Therefore, without the slightest hesitation, Han Xin ordered the guard to bring Mr. Zhang Liang in. Not long after, Mr. Zhang Liang walked into the tent with measured steps. As soon as Han Xin caught sight of Mr. Zhang Liang, he asked with a cold face, "Mr. Zhang Liang, have you come to settle the score?" "No, Mr. Zhang Liang shook his head slightly. I, your king, acted on my own will to execute Xiang Bo today, which could be said to have slighted Mr. Zhang Liang. Does Mr. Zhang Liang really not care at all? If I said I did not care at all, that would surely be a lie. However, Xiang Bo insulted the majesty of the Qi army, and obstructed the king of Qi's grand strategy to conquer Chu. That the king of Qi had to kill him was a demand of righteousness, and a matter of necessity. A demand of righteousness, a matter of necessity. Does Mr. Zhang Liang truly think so? I, Zhang Liang, never speak empty words. Good. Mr. Zhang Liang is indeed a man of great character. I, your king, admire that. Han Xin bowed in respect to Mr. Zhang Liang. Then, seeming to remember something, he hurriedly asked, May I ask what brings Mr. Zhang Liang here this time? Mr. Zhang Liang returned the bow to Han Xin, and replied with a smile, I am here to help the king of Qi. To help me? Han Xin was somewhat taken aback, and asked in confusion, Mr. Zhang Liang, why do not you explain where I might need your help? Mr. Zhang Liang stroked his beard. Gently speaking, there are two things the king of Qi requires my assistance with. First, the king of Qi wishes to understand why his well-laid trap was perfectly countered by Shang Yu. Second, before I could even voice the second point, Han Xin asked excitedly, Mr. Zhang Liang, do you truly know what is happening? Regarding how Shang Yu saw through these tactics, I, along with the king of Han and Mr. Chen Ping, have a theory. It is that under Shang Yu, there may be a brilliant strategist comparable to Fan Zeng. Fan Zeng. Han Xin could not help but gasp. Clearly, he is also deeply wary of Fan Zeng. Mr. Zhang Liang, who exactly is this brilliant man under Shang Yu? Forgive me, King of Qi, but as for the identity of this person, I cannot say for certain just yet. However, unless Shang Yu has become an entirely different person, otherwise, it is only possible if he has someone like Fan Zeng to guide him. Only then would it make sense. Hua Qi, the King of Qi is truly a master of warfare on this earth. Haha, Mr. Zhang Liang, you flatter me. Han Xin replied with a smile. Then his tone shifted abruptly. As you have said, Mr. Zhang Liang, the reason Shang Yu could dismantle my trap is because he has someone comparable to a brilliant man like Fan Zeng. Then I wonder if Mr. Zhang Liang has any good advice for the battles to come. Haha, that is exactly why I came today, and it is the second point where I can aid the king of Qi. Now the Chu army still possesses some fighting strength. As the saying goes, a cornered beast still fights. If the king of Qi wishes to exterminate them quickly, I fear it will be very difficult. However, I possess a strategy that can crush the fighting spirit of the Chu army without any effort. Mr. Zhang Liang truly has such a brilliant plan. Please enlighten me quickly. Your king can find soldiers or prisoners in your army who are capable of speaking the local language of Chu, and then do this and that. You will certainly dismantle the Chu army's will to fight. A single tune, and their hearts will be in disarray. Mr. Zhang Liang is truly a genius. You are too kind, King of Qi. After the discussion ended, Han Xin was beaming with joy. He personally escorted Zhang Liang out of the main camp. Qian Tong, while taking a stroll at night, saw this scene, and curiously asked Han Xin, Your king, was not Zhang Liang here to hold us accountable? Mr. Zhang Liang is a man of great tolerance. He would not let a minor matter from the day weigh on his heart. He came to find me, in order to lend me a helping hand. In his tone, he was extremely respectful to Zhang Liang. Your king, Zhang Liang was clearly slighted by you earlier. Yet not only did he not come here to settle the score, he actually took the initiative to assist your king instead. There is likely something suspicious about this. Your king should be more vigilant. Vigilant, Mr. Zhang Liang acted with truly good intentions. How can you speculate so maliciously? Your king, your subordinate here is looking out for your interests. I just do not want your king to be deceived by Zhang Liang. Deceived? Humph. I am not a fool. How would I be played for a fool by him? Qian Tong felt deeply stifled. He almost blurted out your name. When it comes to political plotting, Han Xin is truly a fool. However, he managed to restrain himself in the end. Seeing Qian Tong remain silent, Han Xin mistook it for a guilty conscience. Thus, he continued to rebuke him. Mr. Qian Tong, I have already told you before, do not let your prejudices cloud your judgment of others. Before, you held biases against the king of Han. Now, even Mr. Zhang Liang is being treated the same way. How can I dare to employ you? Prejudice. Damn these prejudices. No good deed goes unpunished. This was the perfect reflection of how Qian Tong felt at that moment. He took a deep breath, and replied gloomily, I understand, your king. Seeing that Qian Tong had recognized his errors, Han Xin said nothing more. He immediately returned to the main tent, and began to deploy the troops according to Zhang Liang's strategy. Past midnight, the world was pitch black. One could not see one's own hand. Outside the Chu army camp, songs drifted through the endless night air. One only needed to listen carefully to realize that these were songs from the land of Chu. The autumn of the 9th month brings a chilling breeze. Frost flies across the fields. Through months and years of tireless warfare, all paths lead eventually to Liu Bang. My gray-haired mother longs until her heart breaks. And what of my wife? Awaiting in an empty room. My brothers long to see me. They pace, wringing their hands. My sisters weep for me, tears falling like rain. Old friends come to visit, knocking on my door to check for my return. Scholarly peers and friends ask about my life's journey. Once the battle truly begins, we meet our end on the spear's tip. Our flesh turns to dust and mud. Having fought on the same battlefield, why not think of our homeland, to return to our beloved hometowns, and reunite with our families, to finally find peace and safety? The singing drifted slowly from outside the camp, mournful and longing, rising high, lingering long, like the cry of a crane in the far distance, a lament echoing through the wilderness. The patrolling Chu soldiers, upon hearing the song, could not help but stop in their tracks. Inside the tents, the resting Chu soldiers heard the singing, and emerged in unison, listening to the familiar melodies of home, listening to the lyrics that pierced the heart. The Chu soldiers were overcome with profound sorrow. In the darkness, no one knew who started humming along. Very soon, more Chu soldiers joined in the mournful chorus. Before long, the entire Chu campsite was completely filled with the sad and haunting songs of Chu. Inside Yuji's quarters, have you finished your evening meal? I was just preparing to recline and rest, but the singing that suddenly started outside has surely caught you by surprise. Do you know, this is what they call the songs of Chu from all sides strategy. Yuji saw your face change drastically. She asked in a soft, hurried voice. My king, what is it? Take a deep breath. Try to calm yourself down. It is nothing, just a minor complication. I must go attend to it. Go then, my king. I shall await your return. Do not wait. Rest now, and sleep in your robes. I fear strife will come tonight. Understood. I shall remember your words. Stepping out of the main tent, you walk straight toward the central command. A disturbance has emerged. All my generals should be waiting there for my orders. On the way there, songs rich with the melodies of Chu kept echoing in your ears. As the lyrics touched your heart, it struck a deep chord within you. Watching such dramas in my previous life, I never felt much for the tale of songs from all sides. Now, experiencing it firsthand, I truly grasp the weight of these songs. Cool autumn winds of the 9th month. Frost settles across the land. War has raged for months on end, destined to fall to Liu Bang. This is a psychological scheme to spread despair among our ranks. To make my men see clearly, they are completely surrounded, like late autumn leaves falling to the frost, destined to be swept away. The outcome of our war is now sealed. Even if we put up a resistance, it will be in vain. Victory rests with the Han army. The world will inevitably belong to Liu Bang. Just imagine, my soldiers, knowing the current predicament, knowing that fighting is useless, who would still have the courage and faith to turn the tide. Aging mothers left behind, heartbroken in their longing. How can wives endure this? Left alone in empty homes, brothers yearning for reunions, pacing the floor in grief, sisters weeping tears like rain, old friends and companions can no longer visit, classmates and brothers, unable to ask after one another. The strategist uses these songs to stir up their homesickness, breaking their loyalty to me. Just imagine, my men, trapped in this desperate situation, hearing how their mothers break their hearts in longing, their wives left in lonely homes, brothers living in despair, sisters shedding endless tears, old friends unable to visit, and classmates silenced hearing such a sorrowful dirge. How can one remain unmoved? They suffer such intense longing, and the pain of separation, and the loneliness of being far from home in armor. How could they possibly have the will to fight to the end? Because my soldiers are men of flesh and blood. They have families too. They have loves they cannot let go. Once they clash in battle, they die on the spear tips, their bodies turning to dust. On these battlefields, who would not dream of home, to return to their native land, to be reunited with their families, to find peace at last? This is how the strategist points the way for my army, persuading them to lay down their arms and surrender. If my soldiers remain indifferent to such fate, then battle it is. Once the fighting begins, the soldiers of Chu will surely be slaughtered, perishing on the battlefield, becoming mere ghosts under the enemy's blades. Just imagine, if the majority of our soldiers hear that, laying down their arms will grant them life, a chance to return to their families, and a hope for lasting peace. Whereas, resistance until the bitter end leads only to a dead end. What choice will they make? A single melody to shake an army's spirit. Such a psychological assault. Even if you have seen life and death in your previous life, even if you have grown accustomed to the cruelty of this era, one cannot help but tremble inside. Cruel. Truly, it is too cruel. No wonder historians record that, in the final moments of the Battle of Gaixia, you broke through with only 800 cavalry. It seems, it was not a case of you abandoning your massive army, but your army abandoning you. Amidst the wailing, mournful songs of Chu, the remaining soldiers retreating to the camp had already lost all will to fight. They used the cover of night to desert. By the time you realized it, only those 800 most loyal men remained beside you. No, I must prevent such a tragedy from happening again. But how easy is it to stop the spreading songs of Chu? You might use the absolute authority you hold over the army to stop your men from singing along, but you cannot stop the enemy outside. At this moment, you feel the suffocating pressure. What should be done? Lost in deep agonizing thought, you find yourself outside the main military tent, looking at the panic-stricken faces, the confused generals of the Chu army. Your heart sinks once more. However, the more dire the situation, the more clearly you understand that you must not panic. You must remain calm and composed. You must remain steadfast, even if mountains were to crumble before you. Self-hypnosis. Endless self-hypnosis. Gradually, you look truly unruffled. Influenced by you, the Chu generals also slowly settle down. They know, even if the sky were to fall, our omnipotent overlord will rise to the challenge. Gentlemen, you call out in a low, firm voice, drawing the attention of all the Chu generals. The enemy now wishes to confuse our army with these songs of Chu from all sides. Go and summon your respective troops. I have words for them. Although the Chu generals are somewhat skeptical of such an approach, you have already given the order, so they execute it without question. Not long after, except for the necessary guards on patrol, the rest of the Chu army, led by their commanders, arrived before the main tent. Scanning the sea of faces, you quickly step onto the platform. You speak in a resonant voice. Brothers, do you miss home? Yes. The Chu soldiers respond in unison. Do you know where my home is? The land of Chu. Indeed, my home is in the land of Chu. Not just mine. General GBU, General Zhongli Mo, General Yu Ziki. Your homes are also in the land of Chu. We all long to return home. Yet, there are others who do not wish to let us go. My king, who is it that stands in our way? It is Liu Bang. It is Han Xin. It is the coalition that has us surrounded here at Gaixia. Can it truly be them? Most of the Chu troops are growing confused. My king, do those songs of Chu from outside not claim that if we cease our struggle, we shall be allowed to return home? The songs of Chu do indeed claim such. But can you believe them? Dare you trust their words? How much time has passed since then? Have you all forgotten the Treaty of Hong Canal? How Liu Bang betrayed our trust, and how he failed to keep his own word? The Chu soldiers fell silent as one. Do you know why I once agreed to the treaty with Liu Bang? The Chu soldiers remained silent. It was because I had grown tired of this war. It was because I wanted to bring you all home. For this, I yielded half the empire. And what was the result? The Chu soldiers remained despondent. That shameless knave Liu Bang violated our agreement and hunted us relentlessly across the land. Does this look like they intend to let us go home? This is an attempt to drive us into our graves. When you spoke those words, General GBU, General Zhongli Mo, General Yu Ziki, and General Shang Zhuang all spoke up in unison. Brothers, the overlord is right. The enemy, led by Liu Bang, never had any intention of letting us go home. They sing these songs of Chu on purpose, to break our will to fight, so they can send us to our deaths. Are you willing to let them have their way? We are not. The Chu soldiers all cried out in reply. Seeing the morale of the Chu soldiers ignited, you then spoke with a resonant voice. Brothers, I know how much you long to go home. Not just you, but I and all our generals also long to return home. But even if we do wish to return, we must never abandon our dignity and our pride. We must never beg for the mercy of our enemies. If we return with our heads held high. We will return in triumph and glory. Come to think of it, you have followed me for many years now. You are all well aware of what the Overlord is capable. Mountains of blades and seas of fire. I have led you through it all before. Why should we fear mere obstacles before us now? As long as you trust me, I will lead you safely back to Chu. Back to your own homes. With these words spoken, without needing the generals like GBU, Zhongli Mo, Yu Ziki, or Shang Zhuang to stir the mood further, the Chu soldiers spontaneously cheered in unison. The Overlord is right. We will not abandon our dignity and our pride. We will not beg for the enemy's mercy. We will return with our heads held high. We will return in triumph and glory. Witnessing this scene, you nod with satisfaction. You then command the troops to return and rest. Once the soldiers had dispersed, you summon the generals into the command tent to discuss our next move. I hear your clear response. Gentlemen, even though I have just managed to steady our troops' morale, if this drags on, disorder within our ranks is inevitable. On this matter, what are your thoughts? General GBU pondered for a moment, then stepped forward first. Just as my king has said, if this drags on, our soldiers' hearts will surely be shaken. Therefore, I humbly suggest we engage the Qi army in a decisive battle tomorrow. After a great victory, we can then withdraw at our leisure. Upon hearing this proposal, most of the generals expressed their agreement. Only Zhang Limo seemed to have a different opinion. You noticed it, therefore. I immediately asked, General Zhang Li, you seem to have a different view. Why do not you share it with us? Zhang Limo collected his thoughts and said with a steady voice, Your king, it is my humble belief that tomorrow is not the time for a decisive battle against the Qi army. For what reason? Although my king just managed to stop the chaos that the songs of Chu could have caused, it must be said that the lingering poison of these songs persists. If we break the siege and withdraw now, this poison might not erupt, but once we engage in an intense battle, especially if we face any setbacks during the fight, the consequences would be unthinkable. Then, in your opinion, what should be my next move? Well, do not hesitate. Speak your mind freely. Your king, this stalemate is like a cage for our army. The longer we stay, the more dangerous it becomes. I suggest that while our soldiers' morale is still alive, we should break out of the siege immediately. As soon as he proposed breaking out immediately, all the generals' eyes lit up in unison. Although our generals are not afraid of fierce battles in general, if there is an alternative, none of them would want to engage in a bloody life or death battle for no reason. I scanned the generals once, and seeing that no one had any new insights, I then spoke clearly. Gentlemen, what General GBU and General Zhang Li just said, both have their merits. However, in my opinion, whether we choose to fight the Qi army directly now, or immediately break through to withdraw, neither is suitable. Fighting the Qi army while our morale is wavering will not yield high hopes of victory, and if we immediately attempt to break out, we are likely to be pursued by the Qi army. Neither of these is appropriate. Then what should we do? In my view, we only need to launch a surprise attack to bruise the Qi army, and we can resolve the current predicament. A surprise attack can resolve our current predicament. The generals were slightly stunned, then fell into deep thought. Zhang Limo mulled it over, and asked thoughtfully, Your king, may I ask how you intend to choose the timing for this surprise attack? You already have a plan. I replied directly. Tonight, the Qi army used the tactic of the Songs of Chu to disrupt our morale. We can turn the tables completely by using their own tactic against them. Secretly select our most loyal and brave soldiers to pose as deserters. After leaving the camp, hide yourselves first. Wait until the Qi army returns to their camp, then secretly infiltrate their main camp. The Qi army believes we are trapped by the Songs of Chu strategy. Therefore, they will surely be negligent. They likely never expected that our army, while our morale is supposedly wavering, would dare to launch a surprise attack on their camp. At the break of dawn, they will be at their sleepiest. At that moment, if we launch a thunderous assault, we will certainly deal a heavy blow to the Qi army. Once their main camp is devastated, and considering their cavalry was nearly wiped out, any attempt they make to pursue us will not be so easy for them. Thus, our army will be able to withdraw safely after our victory. After hearing your strategy, the generals began to whisper among themselves. Shortly after, they all felt your plan was highly feasible. Seeing their consensus, I decisively issued the order to commence. General GBU, General Shang Zhuang, where are you? We are here, your king. GBU and Shang Zhuang stepped forward. They responded clearly. I order you to select only the most loyal and valiant men. Disguise them as deserters to sneak out of the camp. By the break of dawn, General GBU shall lead them to attack the left flank of the Qi camp. When that happens, I will lead the main force to support you from the rear. Remember, the purpose of this raid on the Qi camp is primarily to burn their food supplies. Do not get needlessly entangled in battle. We obey your command, your king. General Yu Ziki, where are you? I am here, your king. Yu Ziki stepped forward. He responded clearly. 30 miles to the southeast of our camp, there is a river called the Tuo River. I suspect the Qi army has set an ambush there by damming the water. Take your troops to the upper reaches of the Tuo River, and ensure you seize control of the dam. Once our army has crossed the river, release the water and drown the Qi army in their tracks. Your king, what if there is no Qi army at the upper reaches? Then you must hurry and build a dam to hold the water yourself. Remember, this deployment determines whether we can shake off the pursuing Qi army. There must be no failure. I obey your command, your king. General Zhang Limo, General Huan Chu, where are you? We are here, your king. Zhang Limo and Huan Chu stepped forward. They responded clearly. My family and the security of the main camp are now in your hands. Do not worry, your king. We shall not fail your expectations. Everything is arranged. The generals left one by one to prepare for their respective duties. Outside the Chu army camp, Cao Shen was gesturing for his men to sing the songs of Chu, while observing the activity inside. After waiting for a full hour, there was no sign of the Chu army fleeing. Cao Shen even began to think that Zhang Liang's strategy had failed. Just as Cao Shen was preparing to report to Han Xin, a sudden commotion erupted inside the Chu camp. Soon after, clusters of Chu soldiers began fleeing the camp. Seeing the scene, Cao Shen was overcome with joy. He secretly thought his success was assured. Following this, Cao Shen continued to observe for a while longer, until half the Chu force had scattered and fled. Only then did he return to his camp, fully satisfied. Half a shichen later, inside the Qi army camp, upon hearing the report from Cao Shen, Han Xin let out a sigh of relief, while a satisfied smile broke across his face. Thinking of how Shang Yu is now left with few allies, and is about to fall into the net, surrounded by enemies on all sides, Han Xin could not help but burst into loud laughter. Shang Yu, oh Shang Yu, in the end, you are still destined to fall by my hand. At the crack of dawn, though the night was slowly fading, the autumn mist hung heavy, thick enough to obscure one's very own fingers. By the left gate of the Qi army camp, the flickering torches, lashed by the night wind, danced uncertainly. Beneath the light, a few sleepy Qi sentries struggled to keep their eyelids from drooping, swaying unsteadily, drifting in and out of slumber. When a patrol of Qi soldiers passed by, the drowsy guards scrambled to stand at attention, forcing themselves to stay alert. But the moment the patrol vanished from sight, they slipped back into their lull of unconsciousness. Normally, they would never dare to be so negligent, given the iron discipline Han Xin held over his troops. However, these guards had heard the rumors, knowing that last night, the Chu army was in total disarray, with countless deserters fleeing. Because of that, they did not fear an enemy attack in the slightest. The left gate was in such a state, and the other gates were no better off. Every Qi guard had unwittingly let their guard down. Outside the Qi army camp, 2 units of the Chu army, led by GBU and Shang Zhuang, were silently moving in with muffled hooves. Out of caution, GBU did not launch a reckless assault, but instead sent elite scouts ahead to probe the defenses of the Qi camp. They did not expect much before looking, but what they saw left them startled. The massive Qi camp was as vulnerable as a maiden in thin veils, their defenses practically non-existent. Upon receiving the scouts' report, GBU found it hard to believe. He even suspected it might be a trap set within the Qi camp, but after deep reconnaissance, the findings remained the same. GBU no longer hesitated. He decided to strike immediately. Under Jibu's command, several elite scouts crept toward the watchtowers, using arrows to silence the guards. At the same time, the scout captain skillfully used a dagger to slit the throat of a guard. Then he signaled his men to clear out the horse obstacles. Seeing the scouts had successfully infiltrated, GBU let out a thunderous roar. Hill, wielding his steel broadsword, he was the first to charge into the Qi camp. In the thick of the fray, clad in eagle-patterned armor, GBU on his blue stallion resembled a grim reaper from the underworld. His steel broadsword flashed back and forth, cutting down the panicked Qi soldiers who dared to block his path. Behind GBU, the 5,000 Chu cavalry thundered forward, sweeping through the Qi camp like a pack of wolves. As they cut down the terrified Qi soldiers, they quickly set fire to the supply tents. The Qi camp was plunged into total chaos. Han Xin was jarred from his sleep, and immediately summoned his guards to inquire, "What is happening outside? Why is there such a clamor?" The guard reported truthfully, "My king, the Chu army is raiding the camp. Our defenses were completely unprepared. We are falling into total disarray." Han Xin's expression turned to one of shock. Even without time to put on his shoes, he rushed from his tent barefoot, watching the raging fires not far away, and listening to the relentless cries of battle. Han Xin knew things were becoming troublesome. He quickly donned his armor, and escorted by his personal guard, Han Xin hurried toward the Central Military Command tent. Before long, Han Xin arrived outside the Central Command tent. Seeing his arrival, the anxious generals immediately steadied their nerves. It was as if just by Han Xin taking charge, everything would be no problem at all. Without waiting for a formal meeting, Han Xin directly asked, "Gentlemen, how many of the Chu army forces are raiding us? Who is leading them, and from where did they strike?" Li Zuosh had already gathered the relevant information, and hurriedly answered, "Your king, the raiding Chu forces suddenly broke into the left and right flanks of our main camp. They are all cavalry. The exact number is unknown, but it definitely won't be too many." As for the commanders, those identified are Jibiyu and Shang Zhuang. Are there any other Chu generals? Not as far as we know for now. Shang Yu himself did not lead them. That cannot be confirmed yet. At least he has not been spotted today. Very well. I am now aware of the situation. Han Xin nodded. Then his tone shifted. Officers, hear my orders. Sound the drums and assemble the troops. The entire army is to regroup at the center. Officers, hold your positions, hold the line, and slowly press forward with your men. Those who retreat, be executed. Those who sow discord in the ranks, be executed. As the 2 commands to execute were issued, the officers felt a chill in their hearts, and secretly began to take the matter seriously. Before long, the Qi officers began leading their respective units to slowly strike back at the rampaging Chu cavalry. The Qi army's offensive formation, long spearmen in the front, sword and shield bearers next, and archers providing support from the rear. They moved steadily, advancing with deliberate, disciplined force. This way, the difficulty for the Chu forces to charge immediately increased significantly. Seeing the scene, Jibiyu and Shang Zhuang hesitated whether to continue their advance or pull back to the camp, considering the rare opportunity to ambush the Qi army. Jibiyu and Shang Zhuang did not immediately retreat, but instead left a portion of their forces to keep burning the grain stores and supply tents, while gathering the rest to maneuver on the outskirts of the Qi army. As time passed, the numerical advantage of the Qi army gradually came to bear, and the force of their counter-attack became increasingly greater. This caused the casualties of the Chu army to rise rapidly. Recalling the warnings from before, Jibiyu and Shang Zhuang dared not linger any longer, and immediately gave the order to retreat. Before pulling back, a Chu officer found Jibiyu dragging a middle-aged scholar with him, asking whether to execute the man on the spot, or to take him back as a captive. Seeing the scholar's distinguished bearing, Jibiyu remembered the recent complaints about the lack of capable scholars under his command, so he had a different thought in mind. He ordered the man to be taken away as a captive. The movement of the Chu army's withdrawal was not small. Upon seeing this, how could the Qi officers be willing to let them leave safely? Without the slightest hesitation, everyone led their units in pursuit. In an instant, the tide of battle turned completely. The Chu army, which had been in such a commanding position moments ago, now found themselves pursued relentlessly by the overwhelming momentum of the Qi forces, forced to flee in total disarray. Naturally, given the disparity between the military units of both sides, it was nearly impossible for the Qi infantry to catch up to the Chu cavalry. However, perhaps the Chu cavalry were exhausted after the heavy fighting, as they seemed unable to shake off their pursuers. Seeing the Chu army just a short distance ahead, the Qi officers' eyes burned with crimson rage. They shouted in unison, "Faster! We must catch them, avenge our brothers who died tonight." Perhaps it was proof of the saying, "Heaven rewards the persistent." After pursuing them for 3 or 4 miles, the Qi army finally closed in on the tail of the Chu forces. Ha ha ha! Finally caught them, brothers. Slaughter them all, leave no one standing. Several Qi officers laughed hysterically in triumph, spurring their horses even faster, charging head-on into the sea of Chu troops. But just at that moment, the Chu cavalry seemed to have sensed the danger beforehand, suddenly accelerating. In a mere heartbeat, they had mostly crossed the hill ahead. The cooked duck was about to fly away. The Qi officers were far from happy about this, shouting repeatedly, urging their troops to speed up the pursuit. Yet just then, amidst the hazy autumn mist, a young man suddenly appeared in dragon-patterned purple armor, brandishing his overlord halberd, mounted atop his wuya horse. Fire! At his command, 20,000 Chu archers hidden behind the hills immediately drew their bowstrings and unleashed a hail of arrows upon the panicked and helpless Qi pursuers. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh! In an instant, the dense rain of arrows poured down like a thunderstorm, relentlessly striking the Qi pursuit force. Because the ambush was so sudden, and the visibility hindered by the autumn mist, the majority of the Qi army failed to react in time, falling to the ground in pile after pile. The Qi officers turned pale with terror, instinctively trying to hide within the crowd. But the rain of arrows was too dense. No matter where they tried to hide, they were in grave danger. Had it not been for their personal guards fighting to death to protect them, they likely would have perished in the first wave of the arrow volley. Faced with such a dire situation, the terrified Qi officers had no more heart left for the pursuit, all tacitly shouting for a retreat. However, the upper hand in the battle shifted once again at this moment. The initiative of the pursuit was now firmly held by the Chu army. Clearly, you would not easily let them escape. Under your command, the Chu army seized the victory and began their slaughter. In a short period, tens of thousands of Qi troops were cut down, wailing in despair. The army collapsed like a crumbling mountain. The Chu army pursued them wildly for several miles, until they reached reinforcements led by Han Xin. Only then did you order the retreat. Watching the victorious silhouette of the Chu army departing, Han Xin furrowed his brows deeply. Irritation over the defeat was one thing, but his deeper concern was that the Chu army still had hidden cards up their sleeve, which could jeopardize his 10-sided ambush plan. Come to think of it, since Han Xin became king, in terms of military strategy and command, sometimes one can indeed be overly confident, but to say he looks down on everything, perhaps that is not quite right. After suffering several major defeats in a row, he is gradually beginning to take the Chu army seriously. Since he predicted the Chu army might retreat after a victory at Gaixia, Han Xin would naturally not let them go. Without a moment of hesitation, he immediately ordered his massive army to pursue them. However, the commanders and soldiers of the Qi army had been stung before by such pursuits, and now, who dared to chase them again? Most of them cowered and held back, watching helplessly as the Chu army marched away. How could Han Xin tolerate his subordinates defying his orders? After sweeping his gaze across the officers, he swiftly drew his purple moon sword, and struck down the two most prominent officers who refused the command. Seeing that Han Xin was truly in earnest, the other Qi officers no longer dared to cower, and hurriedly rallied their troops to begin the pursuit. Amidst the tide of the Chu army, GBU saw the Qi army catching up, and hurriedly sought instructions from you. Your king, the Qi army is trailing us again. Should we turn around and strike back immediately, or set up an ambush, and strike them down once more? After brief deliberation, you shook your head. We will continue our retreat. Pay them no mind. Your king, our army has just won a great battle. We are fully capable of engaging them once more. Why retreat, instead of launching a counterattack? Our victory this time relied primarily on catching them off guard. Now that Han Xin is on guard, if our army were to turn back, we would easily be trapped. Even if we prepared an ambush, success would be difficult to attain. In that case, it is better to simply retreat and conserve our strength to deal with the difficulties that may arise while breaking out. So that is how it is. Your king's foresight is exhaustive. I am in awe. Upstream of the Tuo River, the once gentle riverbed was now obstructed by high embankments, causing the water level to be far higher than usual. On the flat land beside the riverbank, over 1,000 tents sat like giant mushrooms, sprawled silently in the area. Outside the tents, a few Qi soldiers on night watch were chatting listlessly. Damn it, this godforsaken place is crawling with mosquitoes. Indeed, this is no place for a human to stay. Phew, who knows how much longer we have to guard this place. Just be grateful for what you have. I heard the battle over at Gaixia was extremely brutal. Thousands died in a single day. That would be no game, as long as we save our own skins. What does it matter if we get bitten by a few mosquitoes? You are right, Old Chen. Do you think we are in danger here? Danger? What kind of danger could there be? This place is so remote. How could the Chu army find us so easily? Old Chen had not even finished his sentence when the Qi soldier felt a sharp pain in his neck. Just as he prepared to cry for help, he suddenly realized that his companions he was chatting with all had arrows sticking out of their necks. Enemy attack. At the critical moment, Qian Tong opened his mouth several times, yet futilely realized that his warnings were nothing but a faint whisper, hardly enough to wake his comrades deep in their tents. A silent slaughter broke out in an instant. Many in the Qi army were still fast asleep, drifting into the afterlife without a clue. The few who woke up could not escape their doom either. Under the overwhelming siege of the Chu army, they were swiftly cut down. After the battle ended, Yu Ziki looked at the 5,000 corpses of the Qi army, then gazed at the rising waters of the Tuo River. His mind could not help but replay the horrific scene, when the Chu forces were suddenly swallowed by the raging flood. In this very moment, Yu Ziki felt deep lingering dread, and even greater admiration for your foresight. On the high road 10 miles southwest of the Chu camp, Yu Gbu, Shang Zhuang and the others were riding with urgency, finally catching up with the troops belonging to Zhang Limo, who had retreated earlier. The successful reunion of the two forces was worth celebrating, and as the news of the total victory at the Qi camp spread, the entire Chu army was jubilant, feeling more confident for the breakout challenge ahead. Within the ranks of the Chu army, a middle-aged scholar with shackled hands observed the composed and spirited faces around him, unable to stop several doubts from rising in his heart. As a key advisor to Han Xin, Qian Tong was well aware of the Songs of Chu strategy. When he first heard of this tactical plan, even he was stunned by such a brilliant psychological attack. Qian Tong had thought that, given the strategy, the Chu forces would be left helpless, eventually leading to complete military chaos and a total collapse of their power. But now, looking at the situation, it was he, Qian Tong, who had underestimated the Chu army. there must be someone of great talent in the Chu army. Someone not only capable of easily neutralizing your psychological warfare, but also able to launch a counterattack accordingly. As for being captured, Qian Tong did not take it to heart. He had already lost his devotion to Han Xin. Even if he had not been captured, he would have eventually found an opportunity to leave him. What Qian Tong truly cares about now is to quickly find out who this high-ranking mastermind in the Chu camp really is. Just as Qian Tong was lost in deep thought, two Chu soldiers suddenly walked over, and without a word, escorted him toward the front of the formation. Qian Tong felt a slight sense of unease, but he did not show it. His identity was revealed shortly after his capture. According to his guess, this must be because you wish to see him, with the obvious goal of persuading him to surrender. Thinking of this, Qian Tong felt a mild headache. He felt a certain resistance to serving you. In his view, since you could not fully utilize top-tier advisors like Fan Zeng, how could you truly value him, a mere captive from the Qi army? But if he were to refuse directly, Qian Tong dared not be so reckless. After all, your reputation for mercilessness is well known throughout the land. If he were to accidentally provoke you, he might very well die. With his ambitions unfulfilled, bearing these complex emotions, Qian Tong was brought before you. Face to face, Qian Tong realized you looked somewhat different from the overlord in his memory. The difference is not in appearance. The difference is not in appearance. The difference is not in appearance, but in your presence. In his perception, you should be sharp and imposing. But what he sees in you now is a refined blade within a humble sheath. When Qian Tong sized you up, you were also sizing him up. In your eyes, Qian Tong, dressed in white scholar's robes, wearing a simple headscarf, though his appearance was plain, his bright eyes revealed a profound wisdom. In your memories from your past life, there was not much information about Qian Tong, but the very fact that he presented Han Xin, the strategy to destroy Qi and divide the realm, was enough to earn your attention. With the intention of winning him over, you approached Qian Tong and personally untied his ropes. Mr. Qian Tong, forgive my past offenses. This gesture of yours might seem quite ordinary to yourself, but in Qian Tong's eyes, it was a gesture of overwhelming favor, because in Qian Tong's impression, you were cold and brooding, impossible to approach, a reputation for being ruthless indeed. Qian Tong sighed inwardly. After his sigh, he bowed to you. Qian Tong, now a captive, pays his respects to the overlord. You smiled slightly. Mr. Qian Tong, there is no need for such formalities. I have admired you for a long time. I wonder if you would be willing to stay by my side and help me resolve my doubts. Admired for a long time. Stay by your side. Qian Tong was sharp-minded. As soon as he heard those words, he knew you intended to recruit him. Normally, to be treated with such respect by a king, Qian Tong should have accepted readily. But because of the lesson learned from Fan Zeng, Qian Tong hesitated. He worried you were merely acting on a whim, treating him well for the moment, only to discard him like a worn-out shoe later. How about it? Are you unwilling, Mr. Qian Tong? It is a matter of great importance. May I have some time to consider it, Overlord? Very well. Simply inform me, Mr. Qian Tong, when you have reached a decision. You did not force him. You waved your hand to the guards, signaling them to take him away. However, Qian Tong did not immediately follow the guards. Instead, he bowed to you once more. Overlord, I have a question. I pray you will clear my confusion. What is it? You turned around. The military prowess of the King of Qi is truly extraordinary. Yet he has suffered repeated setbacks at the hands of the Chu army recently. Is it because there is a great strategist commanding the Chu army? A great strategist. You were slightly puzzled, then shook your head. There is no such strategist in my army as you describe. This is impossible. The death trap set by the King of Qi was exquisite. If there is no great strategist in command, how could the Chu army have broken the trap so perfectly? You offered no answer to that question, because GBU could no longer hold his tongue. Mr. Qian Tong, by your own logic, then that master strategist must be my king, General GBU. You say that master is the overlord. How can that be? Qian Tong, however, remained doubtful. GBU pressed his palm onto Qian Tong's shoulder, squeezing down with force, while offering a dissatisfied cold snort. You dare to question my king's capability. It seems your bones are itching for a beating. A sharp pain struck, and Qian Tong's face turned pale. General GBU, I speak only the truth. Why must you resort to violence? My king is wise and divine in warfare. His strategies are peerless. You dare to belittle my king's might. It is not just your bones itching now. Then what is it? I have not drawn my blade yet. That is me being merciful. Very well. You still do not believe it. Shall I strike you then? Just as GBU prepared to strike again, you spoke up to intervene. General GBU, show some respect to Mr. Qian Tong, actions speak louder than words. There is no need to dwell on this. GBU holds you in the highest regard. Since I have given the word, he shall not trouble Master Qian Tong any further. However, though GBU withdrew his hand, Qian Tong, not finding the answer he sought, still persisted, asking, Overlord, the Chu army is surely withdrawing toward Wuzhong, intending to cross the river to Jiangdong, right? Correct. You replied calmly. Does the Overlord realize the perils that lie ahead? I will not speak of the distance, but there is a crisis just ahead. You speak of the upper flows of the Tuo River. The Overlord actually knows of the Qi army's deployment there. Seeing the shock written on Qian Tong's face, GBU felt an instant surge of satisfaction. He could not help but interject. Qian Tong, my friend, my king not only knew about the Qi army and their positions on the upper Tuo River, but had already dispatched troops to seize that position. Already seized the upper Tuo River. Qian Tong was struck to the core, secretly wondering if this was merely a coincidence, or if you had once again dismantled Han Xin's lethal trap. Just as Qian Tong was prepared to probe further, to verify his own suspicions, a scout galloped up to your side. Respectfully, he reported, Overlord, General Yu Ziki led a night raid on the Qi camp at the Tuo River, slaying 5,000 enemies, with only hundreds of our own lost. We have successfully seized the crossing built by the Qi army. Good, good, good. You stated the word 3 times, adding with a satisfied smile. General Yu Ziki commands troops with wisdom. He has truly not disappointed this king. Overlord, General Yu Ziki surely knows how to lead. But if not for the Overlord's strategic planning, such a glorious feat would have been impossible. GBU praised you, while intentionally glancing at Qian Tong, longing to see the shock and embarrassment on his face. In fact, Qian Tong was indeed quite embarrassed. Earlier, despite Jibu's repeated claims, so you are the genius advisor Qian Tong spoke of. But because of my prejudice against you, I never truly believed it in my heart. That is why I resorted to those reckless provocations later on. Now that the truth is laid bare, even if I do not wish to believe it, I have no choice but to accept it. Noticing that you no longer look at him directly, Qian Tong finally realized that he had offended you repeatedly merely to find an answer to an absurd doubt. He had offended you many times. Fortunately, you are not as savage and quick-tempered as the rumors suggest. Otherwise, the consequences would be unthinkable. As his mind opened up, Qian Tong realized so much more. Previously, due to his prejudice, he thought you were all brawn and no brains, but the facts told him that you are accomplished in both literature and martial arts. Previously, due to his prejudice, he thought you were arrogant and hot-headed, difficult to approach, but the facts told him that you have a broad mind and treat people with kindness and courtesy. And what he previously thought that you would not fully trust even Fan Zeng, and would never truly employ him, might that judgment itself be biased? Might that judgment itself be biased? The more Qian Tong thought about it, the more he felt that was the case. Feeling a hint of guilt, he bowed respectfully before you, Overlord. Previously, due to the prejudice in my heart, I have greatly offended you. I ask for your forgiveness. Seeing the sincerity in his attitude, you stepped forward to help him up, and replied with a smile, What one does not know, one cannot be blamed for. Mr. Qian Tong, please do not mind it. Besides, most people in this world hold prejudices against me. I have long since grown accustomed to it. Overlord, your status is noble. How can you tolerate the existence of such prejudices? People will always talk behind my back, and it is not within my power to stop them. Furthermore, facts speak louder than words. As for what kind of person I am, what others say does not matter. Right and wrong, success and failure, will be judged by history. Facts speak louder than words, merit or fault. History shall be the judge. Qian Tong muttered to himself, his recognition of you having reached a new height. Gritting his teeth, he knelt down solemnly before you. I, Qian Tong, wish to offer my humble service to you, my king. May you please